Hello, 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 hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Jeeper. Oh, Mandy, I've been around. I've been back for a few days, but I've been around. I took a break though. I had a family emergency and I had to deal with. My brother's really ill and he's on hospice, and so I had to travel back home to take care of him and do a lot of traveling. So, but I'm back. I know. I missed you guys too. I did. I did. So, are you following the Mackenzie Shirula case? Thank you, Dreamer. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you. Yeah, he's got cancer. You did? You saw the show on it? You saw the documentary? Hey, Sam. Hello. I should join the police force? I'm always on the ball? No, I'm good not being a cop. I just enjoy it. It's fun. Hey, Sam, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just interested in what you have to say about this whole case because I'm kind of green on it. So
Did you watch? I know you watched the documentary.
yeah,
Oh, Mandy, I'm sorry.
I'm kind of torn with the documentary because I don't know. I don't see somebody trying to. I see somebody trying to maybe unalive herself and others because of the injuries and how it was done. Especially a 17-year-old. I don't think they have the knowledge, no offense, to plan that all out. And because she almost passed away too from injuries.
She's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So you think, see, at first I thought a suicide pact, right? Because it's possible. Let's be real. They all had made threats of self-harm in the past. They all had issues, right?
Yeah.
I know Davion has a diagnosis. I know that Mackenzie was on antidepressants and then she stopped. Cold turkey. I know she has a history of self-harm. And I know that Dominic also has a history of making self-harm threats. So
Yeah.
it's definitely possible, especially when you add in like drugs like shrooms, right?
That's what my husband, he thinks, because of the rug use, possibly that had an influence, or if she passed out, even at the will, from whatever. It was early in the morning, so.
The only thing that makes me not agree with her passing out is her. Now, I don't know that her foot was on the accelerator. And I'm going to tell you why I don't know that her foot was on the accelerator the whole time. There are videos out there, and there's one in the FOIA documents where she's sitting crisscross up on the seat of the car, and she's got cruise control on. And she has a history of driving this speed. They all do, right? But Mackenzie had a history of driving 90, 100 miles an hour. So is it possible that's why the brake was never applied, and that's why that burst of gas was at the end, because she had to get her legs down, and
Well,
you know what I mean?
yeah, and being also her. I think when I was young, of course I wouldn't have done that, but I can see myself getting in a rage of anger in a split second, thinking, I don't know.
Yeah.
I also have mental health issues myself, and this was before I had properly was medicated and stuff like that, and to fully develop my frontal lobe. So I can see, like, maybe not necessarily thinking you were gonna wreck, but
So the reason why I don't agree with the rage, and I'll tell you this, it was approximately 4 minutes from Landon's house or Paul's house to when the crash happened, right? There was 4 minutes in between there. By the time you get in the car and you're talking, is that even long enough to start an argument? You know what I mean? So it's not like they were sitting there driving for 20 minutes to get into an argument. And they didn't argue that they were with each other the entire day. The day before that party that night, they were at the zoo. They went to that first party. They did nothing there, supposedly. Not while they were there did they do it. They left there, went to Paul's house, and they didn't fight throughout the entire day. There was no fighting. Hey, Marcy.
Oh, well,
So if they weren't fighting, why would they all of a sudden start? And there was also a history of um whatchamacallit, they didn't fight in front of people. They were very private about the thing. They fought at home. But none of the friends, even the friends outside of that party, were like, no, we didn't really see them fight. It was more of a private thing.
really? Okay. Well,
So Silent
yeah.
Chaos said Dom's sister seems to think it's because Dom had tried to break up with her. So I can kind of see that. The only reason I don't agree with that, and everyone's free to believe and agree with what they want to, right? This is not me telling you guys what to believe. I don't agree with that or believe that because this wouldn't have been the first time they broke up. They broke up quite a few times. So it wouldn't be a shock to her for them to break up because they broke up. They both saw other people when they broke up, got back together again, broke up, got back together again. So why all of a sudden did this time she break up and she was like, oh man, he means it this time? Let me slam into a wall. That doesn't make sense to me. So what made this breakup like murder worthy as opposed to the other breakups?
Right.
And if she wanted to kill them, they had guns at their house. And I do believe from what the police said, they had very good reason to believe there was a gun at Paul's house that night. Why wouldn't she just shoot him and claim, I'm a small girl, he's a big guy, he tried to harm me, it was self-defense?
Yeah. What kind of car was it again?
Toyota Camry 2018, I believe.
Okay.
So now
Good.
I just put up a video. It was me reacting to another person's video. Did Chris see the FOIA documents about the black box in the car?
No, he hasn't looked at
Um,
that.
So I have them. I want to send them to you because I want him to look at them, knowing cars, knowing what it means and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And
Being
he's working
educated
for
on
the
that.
Toyota plant too now, so he probably can look a little bit further.
But on that video, you can kind of see the black box readout. So I want him to read that and see like what the girl's saying and how that makes sense in the video because it's her
Yeah.
video. I'm just reacting to it.
Okay.
Hey Ivory, can I Stan the Man? Yes, you can come up. Hold on. Stan the Man, you have to request. You can come up. Anybody can come up as long as you're respectful. You don't have to agree with me. I just ask that you keep it respectful and we can talk. There you go.
Yeah, no personal digs.
Hi,
Hi.
can you hear me?
I can.
No, you made a video a while ago and I made a comment on it, right? They're talking about, well, they call it the black box, everybody is, but it's a different kind of thing.
Right.
But anyways, I Googled a 2018 Toyota Camry, all right? These cars had so many recalls on them. And if you remember in the videos, they showed that he checked the gas pedal, the brake pedal, and there was one other thing that he checked. These cars are known for electrical problems in the cruise controls. Whether you put it on or you don't put it on, this car can just have a mind of its own, snap of a finger, just take off like a bullet.
Oh, see that I didn't know.
I'm also an ASE certified mechanic. And I always wondered that, did they check the wiring in this car?
Ooh, that's really
Because,
interesting.
because all I ever seen them do is check the brake pedal and the gas pedal. And they said, yeah, they moved freely. And
But
another
what about
thing,
the cruise control?
and another thing I was going to point out too, You know, she might not be completely wrong. The POTS thing, that's kind of leery. You know, that's iffy. You know, but what if it was rug induced?
So I think, in my opinion, while she may have a history of passing out, having seizures, or having POTS, I don't know that POTS played a part in it. And I'm going to tell you why. As a medical professional, that's my profession, right? With POTS, you can pass out, your blood pressure shifts, like all of that happens. If she had just fainted, her foot would have, and if she had fainted and her foot was on the gas, her foot would have come off that gas. However, if she had had a seizure, it's possible that her foot could have gone down on the gas pedal and stayed there. I don't think that she fainted because multiple times she said she turned down that block, she was driving, and then all of a sudden she lost her, like she felt like she passed out. But I'm wondering if that pass out wasn't the actual hitting or the airbags coming out, and that's when she passed out.
Well, you know, that could be too. And somebody said in the comments too, and I was going to point that out too. Everybody keeps on talking about the 100 miles an hour, right? When they hit the wall, her speedometer said 72 miles an hour. A speedometer in any car, if anybody knows anything about cars, will lock that speed in the minute the crash happens. So the way I figured it, I looked at all the pictures and everything. If she was doing 100, how could she drop from 100 to 72 by the time she hit that wall? There had to be some kind of brakes applied somewheres. And also to the videos, if you watch the last video that they show where they went through the intersection, you can see the third brake light in the back window. It lights up. And I mean, I've looked at this a million times,
Twice.
and I have slowed it down. I even screenshot it to look, you know, and blow it up, and it's the third light in the back window.
Yep.
And that's not going to come on from bumping around and everything.
No.
But another thing is too about the passing out or whatever happened to her, because my personal opinion is I think it was rug induced. And what I think happened is that slippers she had on, I think her foot got tangled in that slipper on top of the gas pedal underneath the brake pedal, and she was fighting to get her foot out of it, and that's why she started swerving, because she was jerking her foot, and when she jerked, she was swerving.
That's what Chris thinks too, was the slipper.
So that's interesting because I have done that before. My flip flop and my slipper had gotten stuck. I have done that before. I can see that. I also know that with the Toyota Camry, although I believe it was a 2009, because I had the 2009, the gas pedal would get stuck on the mat, right? I don't know about the 2018, but I could see the slipper getting stuck.
Well, like I said, if you get bored after your live or whatever, just Google 2018 Toyota Camry, all the malfunctions on it, and man, I mean, it goes from transmission all the way to the wipers, what is it? It was transmission, window wipers, horn, cruise control.
What about the ABS system? If that was screwed up, could that have done something?
No, because all the ABS really does is an ABS is to slow it down. You know what I mean? It's slow braking instead of like you touch the brakes and they lock up. That's all an anti-lock brake is.
I'm only saying that because I know her model, her year had a recall on the ABS system.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about cars to speak that intelligently on them.
But her dad did have a point, though. You know, when they went off the road before the stop sign, they went across the yard, if you look, those curbs are like an inch to 2 inches high. And when they hit that, it could have sent the sensors off and hit the airbags. You know what I mean? And the airbag went off on, it would be the passenger side first.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was trying to correct it, the left one went and blew her to the right of the car. And she could have been laying basically in Dom's lap when they went through the intersection, hit that other curb, went airborne through the sign. And if you look at the wall, and that they were airborne when they hit that wall. They were not on the ground, because a Toyota Camry sits, what is it, anywhere from, I'm going to say 6 to 10 inches off the ground. They're low sitting cars.
Yeah.
And if you look at that wall, it's like, I'm going to say anywhere from 15 to 20 bricks, I think it was, I counted, off the ground.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
And then if
mean,
it was
and to
airborne,
be honest
then
with
why
you,
the car was in the opposite direction than you would have thought it should be, right?
right. And that's another thing. Everybody's asking why the car was facing the way it was facing, because the wall basically was behind them where the trunk was.
Mm-hmm.
What that wall looks like, if you really look at it, it looks like they came in like a side swipe. You know what I mean? A hard
Yeah.
side swipe.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot
But
of sense.
I will say, I've been deep diving into this case really bad, because I have my own personal
Welcome to the club.
reasons, because I was in a car wreck when I was 29, and my best friend, he got killed
I'm sorry.
unalived in the crash. So I think this is why it piques my interest so much, is because they tried to railroad me.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was smart enough; she got me a really good lawyer. And come to find out, I wasn't even sitting in the driver's seat; I was in the passenger seat. They have my shoe prints on the floor mats for my sneakers. I didn't even know they could get that, but it sounds a little far fetched, but they try to tell us, they try to build a case on me, saying that I was the driver because we were both ejected from the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But where I was laying, they said the driver's side mirror, and there was something else from the driver's side that was laying beside me. And this truck did 4 barrel rolls and then flipped 4 end over end. It
Oh, wow.
just totally destroyed this vehicle.
Oh, wow.
But with all that said, I really strongly feel that she is not guilty of the big M word.
Yeah.
Reckless, negligence,
I agree.
out of control, loudmouth teen, absolutely. But
I agree.
I don't think she should be doing 15 or 15 to lifes. I don't think that.
Yeah, I don't agree with the life. I do think she should at least do 15. But I don't agree with the life, no. And I agree with you as far as it wasn't intentional murder. I do believe it was reckless, negligent. I do believe it was vehicular homicide, but I don't think it was intentional murder.
Right. And somebody keeps, that Martha and Patricia keeps talking about seatbelts. If they look back through the records and that, you can find that the documents, Mackenzie's and Dom's seatbelts were engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I do know a lot of people keep saying she meant to do it because she had her seatbelt on and they didn't, but Dom did have his seatbelt on. In fact, Dom's seatbelt was cut.
Well, all those videos that they show of her in the car before this ever happened, her smoking her JJs and all that, right? If you look closely, you can see her seatbelt. It's wrapped around her waist, and then she does like everybody else does, puts it behind her shoulder.
Yeah.
She's always wearing a seatbelt.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that. Hey, She Shed, have you watched the documentary?
No, but I need to. But I still
Mhm.
don't think she did it on purpose.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, at first I did, and then I thought,
We all did.
no, they were just coloring and doing mushrooms and were just being teenagers.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to ask Stan, when you said that the right airbag would go off first, wouldn't the driver's airbag go off first?
Well, if it usually what it does is when the computer indicates an impact, that's the side it's going to go off.
The
You
driver or
know,
the passenger?
like if you were going through a stop sign and you got T-boned, your airbag's going to go off first because that's the side it's getting impacted on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So did it show what side of the front of the car when she hit that it went off first? If it was the passenger side or the driver's side?
Well, no, no, I mean that was just my opinion.
Oh, okay. I was really curious. You had my attention.
Yeah, but I mean, if you do think about it, and that with a curb that's an inch to 2 inches high, and you hit that, and let's just say she was doing 100 miles an hour. That I mean, a little tiny curve. It seems like how could that do anything? You know what I mean?
Oh, it
But
does
when you,
damage.
yes, when you hit that curve at that fast, it's going to rock the boat and whoever's inside of it.
Can I
So you,
answer? Hi, guys. Sorry, I don't mean to
Hey,
interrupt.
Jen.
Hey, I just want to answer a question that somebody's asking in the chat. They're asking, how did the airbags deploy prior to the car making impact? When the car hit the curb, the car actually thought it was rolling over, and it wasn't. And it triggered the airbags to deploy.
say that again?
So when the car hit the car thought it was rolling over. It wasn't. It didn't roll over, but it thought it was because it hit so hard that the car actually went slightly airborne. So the car thought it was going to roll over. So the airbags deployed, and that was prior to impact.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Right. Just like she was just saying, if you watch the video and you see how they hit that one curb head on, you know they went airborne when they hit that curb. Now, when
So
you're
that would
doing
have
it,
slowed the car down, right?
and when you're doing it sideways, it'd be the same effect.
Show you guys the table. Hold on. I arranged my office today, so everything is a mess. But
But I
I'm going to
did
show
want to
you
get
guys.
your Ivory. I did want to get your opinion on something because I've been watching you for a few days now. Have you seen the new video or the recording of Dom's mom talking to the investigators about that she has a Southern judge in her pocket?
No, wait, what?
Yeah,
That wasn't in her.
I
That
reposted. I
wasn't in
can't.
her. That wasn't in her original interview. Because I played her
No,
original
It
interview.
wasn't. It was when she came back to the police station again to discuss Dominic's phone. It wasn't.
When?
No, she said they would like to have a Southern Ohio Republican judge on
Oh,
case. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. She said, because these Democratic judges, they only pretend to be Democratic or something of like that to get the vote or something of that to that effect. I don't want to say verbatim because I don't remember,
Now,
but
now,
it was
now that you said
something.
that, now I'm remembering that she did
Yeah.
say
And then
something
she
like
said,
that.
well, this isn't going to be heard, is it? This isn't going anywhere. And then they shut the recording off. And I'm like, wait, what is going
Yeah,
on here?
she was talking about James McDonald. McDonald, that's Mackenzie's lawyer. Right before they shut that off,
Yeah.
James and her
Yeah.
brother.
Hey, G,
That
I
was the
see you in
name.
here. You could requesting up too?
yeah, and she said that he's not a real go-getter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, she wasn't lying though, because look what he did. Now, there's no way that anybody can convince me that that man adequately defended her.
No.
Me
Like
either.
that was
Absolutely not.
that was questionable. Like you didn't even try. And
You have
your
to wonder
job, even
why.
if you know that they're guilty, you still have to defend them. Do the best you can, right?
Did he
It's all
throw it
about
on purpose?
perspective. I don't know if he's just not the sharpest pencil in the box or if he did it on purpose because he knew people, but something with that whole thing wasn't right.
I 100% agree with you. Absolutely. I'm not accusing anybody of, colluding,
Right.
but
If the
there
shoe
was a lot
fits.
of things that happened that would make you think there was some collusion going on.
Yeah. Someone just
Well, that's another thing, is if they're doing that and they have a recording and then they shut it off when it's getting interesting, what's actually going on behind closed doors?
mm-hmm. Well, a lot is going on behind closed doors in that little area down there, up there, wherever the hell Ohio is.
Where are you guys
So
all from? Can I, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm from
I'm
Virginia.
from PA.
Okay. I'm in Florida, so
I'm from
I'm
Oklahoma City.
exactly 2.5 hours from Strongville.
oh, okay, so you're not far.
Right.
I know Stan from the Rebecca Park case.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
I do have to, I have to give you a little bit of information. I used to drive truck, and I've been to this industrial park that they're talking about. And that Progressive, if you watch these videos and that they're talking about this road is windy and curvy and everything else, it's not. It's
Right.
straight
It just
and it
turns
has a
right,
little
right?
slight curve to the left and then a slight curve to the right.
Yeah.
And if she made it around those slight curves, it's all straight.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not sure if I believe her foot was on the gas pedal or not. I don't know yet about that. But I really do believe that this chick was high on shrooms and they were exhausted, right? They were out at the zoo, they went to a first party, they were sitting there at the second party. These kids were up all night, right? Yeah, she napped for like an hour, a little bit, but that's not really adequate sleep. Everybody knows if you're driving exhausted, then you might as well be drunk. And I feel like put all that together, it's still dark. They're driving down that road, they're talking about the party, they're being distracted, and I really think that she just ran out of road. She just wasn't paying attention.
Well, that's another thing. When they turned that corner off of Pearl onto Progressive, I mean, I have to admit it too. You can see a big light screen in the passenger side, like there's an iPad or a
Dom
laptop
was
or
on his
whatever.
phone, and so was Davion in the
Yes,
back seat.
and Dom's mom did say that she couldn't get his Dom's laptop because they said it was smashed in the crash. So that's probably what they were doing. They were on the laptop and that, and they were all talking to somebody or whatever, or you know what I mean, or checking videos or making video or just being goofballs. You know what I mean? Just being kids.
I agree.
So my
I
question
agree.
is, Ivory, if the airbag went off, there wouldn't be any way for her foot to be on the gas pedal.
So it's in my last video. I can't play it here, but it's literally like seconds before she smashes into the thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
Like
like
to go up
milliseconds.
the curb, it's
Yeah.
like a second and a half, 2 seconds between the airbags deploying and then because she was going so fast.
It
So I know
happened so
here
fast.
that the airbags deployed, but it would have been like a second before she hit that sign
Okay. That makes
and
sense.
then went airborne. So you know what I mean?
And another thing too that a lot of people don't understand, she was 80 pounds, if that, soaking wet.
Yeah, she was
All
smart.
right. So how close is her seat to the dash and everything else? You know
That
what I
too.
mean?
That's
That
true. That's true. You just never know. I mean, there's so many variables that go into that.
And
Uh,
if her seat was that close to the dash and the pedals and everything else, it would make a lot of sense of her getting tangled up with that big old slipper that they were showing.
Not even that, but the side airbags deploying makes sense on why she was laying to the right.
yeah, they
Right.
knocked her over. They knocked her the hell over. She was 87 pounds. It's
They
just,
would not. Those things come hard.
I
unless
also want to
anyone
say
can show me. Oh,
the airbag deployed even before she clipped the curb. So I sat and did the math
Right.
for like four. I
So
did the
it
math for
before she
about
even
4 hours.
crossed that last road, but it was still only like a second and a half.
It was before she even came into that last camera's vision that the airbag
Right.
deployed.
Right before she came into the last camera's vision. Because it was timed. It was only like 2 seconds before. Second and a half, I think. A little bit more than that.
Yeah, if you do
So
the math, it's 2.2 seconds, but that from the last camera to the impact
you can't
point
see it.
was 2 seconds, and the airbag
Yeah.
deployed 2.2 seconds prior. So that would be, I think I measured it out to about 10 to 14 feet at that speed before she ever comes across that last camera.
So that makes sense, yeah. But
Well,
again,
see,
think about how quick that is, right?
what he just said. I didn't know that part. All right. I thought when they come down and they went across the grass there just before they went across the intersection. But if the airbags deployed before she came into the last frame of that video, then that would make sense when everybody's asking, how did she make it through that S curve?
Going off veering to the right.
She hit the curves way back there.
yeah. Yeah, so she
Yeah,
couldn't
I
see.
believe
I
she
mean,
lost control at about like almost at the end of the S curve, I would say, based on like my layout of how it looks.
So
It
at
was
the
literally like right before she came in. Like when you hear,
right
so if
into
you look
that
at the
last camera
camera,
view.
if you look at
Yeah.
what is it, Euro oil or something, whatever that camera is
Yeah.
called,
Yep.
you can hear the horn. So I believe we hear the horn like the before she ever comes into the camera because the airbag is deploying.
Deploying. That makes
that
sense.
makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been hit by an airbag, but not only does it hit you,
Hard.
and not like I mean, no pun intended here, it hits you like a fucking brick wall. Sorry, my mouth. I
Yeah,
mean, it hit hard.
My
And-
sister
Not
broke.
brick wall, Jen.
Sorry.
My
Sorry.
sister
That was
broke
probably
all
a
of her
bad
bones.
analogy.
My sister broke all of her bones in her hand and had to get pins
From an
put
airbag.
in from an airbag.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
But
was
it
like
also
35
blows
miles
my
an hour
sternum
too.
and broke my wrist and ripped my hands off the steering wheel. Yeah.
It blows this white powdery dust everywhere. It will totally obstruct your view. You're not going to see anything. So my
I
thing
don't
is
even remember dust. I don't
even
dust.
think they
I
saw
don't
the
remember
wall
my
in front of
whole
them.
accident. So
I
that
don't
goes
think-
back to her memory. I don't remember everything that happened during my accident or in chronological order. So I can see why she
Right.
doesn't remember anything.
I don't even think they saw that the wall was in front of them because of the dust from the airbag. They wouldn't have even seen it.
Yeah. I can see that. And it's dark.
It's dark.
That's another thing that you guys just
Yeah.
brought another question to my brain. Everybody said that she didn't have no bruises or nothing on her face or
She
anything
did.
else.
She
Yeah,
did.
yeah, she did.
Yeah,
When they
she
showed
did.
that picture of her laying back, she had bruises on her bottom left or right jaw and the
Yeah.
top of her head.
And remember, those pictures, some of those pictures she was in the hospital. Gee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 3 weeks and then went to a rehab after that. So a lot of the videos and stuff that we're seeing of her face were as the bruising was healing.
Now I was looking for her medical record, like where it lists her injuries. Did she fracture her neck? Why do I remember her fracturing her neck?
I'm not sure. I'm not
She did. It was some sort of something with her neck. I believe it was a fracture.
I remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know if she fractured her neck, but I know they had her in the neck brace because she injured her carotid arteries in her
Arteries.
neck from being
Yeah.
snapped around so bad.
Yeah.
That right there was super fatal. Just that injury alone could have ended it for her. That's
I don't know
bad. So
how she made it out of that alive. I really don't. I really don't know how she lived.
Luck, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
To
obviously.
be honest with you, Annette, if you think about it, and I hate to put it this way, but when people drink and drive and they fall asleep from being too intoxicated, their bodies are so relaxed.
That's
They're
true.
limber and they
That's
survive
true.
and they do.
And that's
That's
why
true.
and that's why I wish that they would never have threw away her first blood drawn.
So that's actually inaccurate. So people think it got thrown out. The one they threw out was the one that they took on the air flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one that got thrown out. But another sample was taken at the hospital once she got there.
Right, but
All right.
wasn't that one was canceled? There's no results for for a tox. Well, they have a 12 panel, but no results for like they weren't checking for shrooms or anything like that. And when they tried to retest it, they weren't able to.
They
Which is
didn't
why
have the ability to
that
check for
tox-
shrooms there. They had to redraw 3 days
From my
later.
understanding,
Send it out, yes.
I will like ask her mom, but from my understanding, every test that was done that day.
They can't. They weren't capable of it. And it's not on a standard 12 panel drug screen.
It's not. Gee, I think they're right on that one.
They took her
And
blood
then-
and sent it out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, but that
yeah.
wasn't until later, a couple of days later, it would have been out of her system.
I don't
Oh
want
yes, for the psychedelics. I mean,
For the-
like I said, I'm gonna
yes.
double check with her
Yeah.
mom. I've never really asked about that part, but I will
don't
definitely
forget-
give her.
because
a
I
text.
always get kind of tied up with that one too. When people bring it up, I'm like, I've heard that they didn't. I know they didn't have the capability to test for it at that hospital and had to be sent out, but I wasn't sure what sample they actually did send out. Was it from 3 days later, or was it from the day of the incident?
The one that was thrown out, you're asking?
Which sample? So they obviously took blood not only on life flight, but as soon as she got to the hospital. So, and then they did another blood test. I think it was 3 or 4 days later. Which one of those samples was actually tested for the
The one 3 days later.
for the mushrooms? Right.
3 days later, yeah. That one, the one that was
Gee,
sent out.
are you related by chance?
He knows the whole family, and he knows.
I was just gonna
Mackenzie as
say,
well.
it sounds like he just said that. Well, I'll ask her mom. So yeah, so it's G. What's your story? How do you know her?
I know, and I was going to say, is there any way that her mom might come up and talk to us?
I connected with them through Bubba a few years ago because I was like interested in the case. I was doing like my own research. Wasn't sure how I felt. I used to lean towards like, oh, she's kind of crazy. And then I got a good chance to talk to Bubba, and then Bubba connected me with Natalie, and then Natalie connected me with Mackenzie.
All right. So you know Landon. Landon is Bubba, right?
Yeah. I've talked to Bubba more than anybody, I believe, like him and Kenzie. So I've talked to him quite a few times.
So let me ask you, knowing that you've discussed this and talked to him, as much as you say you have, not that you haven't, but so they're sticking with the story that there were no shrooms done that night, or that, because I remember in the interview Landon said he wasn't sure, because wasn't he not there the whole time, or?
So they weren't there. They didn't start off at Paul's house. So Paul was the second party. I think the first house was the girl Kelly, if I'm correct, or something like that. They started off at her house, and then they went to Paul's house. So
And then they
he's
left.
under the impression they didn't do anything. Do I necessarily believe that? No, but I just think they're so tied up into legal stuff that it's probably in their best interest to not say if they were doing anything. I don't think they would say if they were doing anything, but I personally think I can't see them all hanging out. And these are people who they do drugs. Rugs. They do rugs. They do them.
Yeah. agree.
So I refuse to believe that this one night they didn't do them. But I think they were all so scared in the moment, like how Paul said Paul came out of his interview and basically was like, they're asking about rugs, they're asking about
They were
gun,
scared, and
pew
rightfully
pews.
so.
Yeah. So I believe
Especially Paul. His parents could have been responsible in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
exactly. So I think it's just hard to go back on that once you say it. Um, so I don't know. I do think her sleeping as much as she was sleeping kind of tells me maybe not, because of I just feel like she would be up. So I have a friend he's so into psychedelics. He's a big psychedelics kind of person. He's also a psychology major like me. So we go back and forth on how we feel about it. And he's told me it wouldn't have altered her in a point of like making her tired. Like it wouldn't have had her super up, but it definitely wouldn't have had her sleepy. And that's the only reason why I say maybe she didn't do them, because of how much they said she was sleeping at that time. Like she was the only one sleep. Like she slept from the time they got there to by the time they wanted to leave.
See, it depends on which story you listen to, because originally she woke up at, it wasn't 3 or 4, and he wasn't there, right? Didn't she wake up at some point before they left?
That was not what
And
Bubba said. Bubba said she was based. So the way he's always explained it, and this is from back 2024 when I first started talking to him till now, his story is literally like the exact same. Was that they were all chilling. They kind of Paul kind of drifted off to fall asleep. Rosie drifted off to fall asleep. So it was Davion, it was Dominic, and it was Bubba, and it was Kenzie laying on Dominic sleep. And he says she was asleep up until the point of him getting up, going to check on Rosie. He didn't say how long he was in there checking on Rosie. He said it wasn't long, but he said by the time he came back out, they were up. They were all kind of like grabbing their stuff, kind of like groggy. And he was like, "Oh, y'all leaving?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to our crib, get some sleep." And he said it was from his understanding, Davion was staying with him, so he was going home with him. And he was like, basically at the very last second, like they didn't have no conversation. Dom didn't get a chance to talk to Davion. He said
right?
at the very, very, very last second, like Kenzie and Dom are already out the door, and Davion is like, actually, I think I'm gonna go. I wanna shower and get some sleep. And he said they
Yeah.
all walked to the car. He said Dominic went into the trunk. He grabbed that orange book bag you see, that we saw in the camera footage or the body cam footage, and they got in the car and they drove off.
So now, what makes me think it's possible that they did them, and maybe they didn't do it with I agree with you. You're not just hanging out at a party and not doing nothing.
Yeah.
But if let's say that he's telling the truth, right? And
Yeah.
he did not witness them do them. They did not do them at the party. I do believe that a couple of them said that, didn't they get there and they left to go back to her house or go somewhere to pick something up, and then they came back?
So they went to after they went to Kelly's house. They went to Kelly's house. Kelly's house is the only time where they were talking about actively doing anything, from my understanding. So they wanted to do, I believe it was like acid or something.
They wanted to do the shrooms and
Yeah, the acid. And Kelly was like, basically like, nah. They said the party was really dead at that point because they arrived super late. So they were like,
Yeah.
okay, we're just gonna head out. So from my understanding, once they got to Paul's house, they never left up until them getting ready to go drive. They were supposed to go pick up the food that was left from the lady who owns the
Potato.
store. Yeah. So that was also, from my understanding, the way they, even when I've talked to Kenzie, that was the plan from the messages. Based on what the messages say, that was some sort of plan.
Right.
I don't know if that plan changed in the car. She doesn't know if that plan changed in the car. She really has been pretty consistent with her story, as well as to not remembering anything from that time period.
So let me ask you about that, okay? What is it, just the specific accident she doesn't remember, or is it the situation that night? Is it like the whole night she
It's
doesn't remember?
it's been so long since I talked to her, and I feel like in the documentary, I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, she states like, so everybody has told me that she states that she doesn't remember drive, like she remembers everything up until the point of driving on the street and crashing. But from my understanding, she's always told me she doesn't remember anything from that day. Like she's always told me like that day is pretty much a blank for her. Like going back to the start of the day almost. Like um but everybody told me that in the documentary she said she remembers turning onto the street, or she remembers everything before turning onto the street. And I don't know if she's ever told me that. So I found that interesting that if she said
Yeah,
that in a documentary.
I think she said it in a message to Christine as well. That didn't she say she turned onto the street and remembered going black? But I just want to say that in my experience, right, and my experiences not only as the victim of a car crash, but my experiences as a registered nurse, that not remembering all of the details of that night makes sense to me. Because like I just told you guys about my story, I remember bits and pieces, but I don't remember anything in chronological order. I don't remember, like someone just said, the dust that comes out from the airbag. I don't remember that. I have no memory of that.
Yeah, I feel like
can
she's
I
always described it as like a pretty. I try not to like ask her to like walk me through that day every time I speak to her. I just feel like that's
Yeah.
weird. So I feel like it's always kind of patchy. Like the general consensus that I always get from it is like she doesn't remember, and I try not to badger that too much. Now, whether I believe if she doesn't remember or not, mm, I'm leaning towards she does, just from like
right,
personal
right,
interactions that I've had with her. And I won't sit up here and lie on the panel. I still don't think she did it intentionally, but I think she is more in a I'm trying to appeal, I'm trying to get out. This was my story. I can't change it now. I believe
I
even if she
agree.
didn't remember at some point, by the time I got in front of her, she remembers something more than what she imposed on to me. And I only say that because just body language, like the way she spoke about other things and the way she spoke about the crash, um, in person, I was able to read it and just be like, okay, you're not fully telling me the truth, which is fine. You don't know me from a can of paint. I wouldn't expect you to. But I
Right.
believe, when you have a lawyer in law, your story can't change now. Her story can't change. Even if she wants to change her story, you're not allowed to change your story. I do believe something I do think it was an accident. I do think she's remorseful. I could see it in the way she describes the crash. But I do think she knows a little more than what she's letting on.
Well,
I
let
think
me
she knows
ask you
more about
this.
what happened earlier in the night.
Yeah,
My
like
whole thing
something
is,
like
I
that for
feel like,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
if she remembered the actual crash or what caused it, I feel like she would have said something. And I'm going to tell you why. Not remembering for this girl doesn't help her. So it would be so much better to be like, oh, all of a sudden, look, I remember now. Because for her to continue with the story that I don't remember the actual crash doesn't help her at all.
Right,
And I
but
feel like, but you're right. She could have just said it. Now she's got to stick with it.
yeah,
Can I
and
say
it's like the
something
problem is
also?
even if she came out and was like, okay, we were doing this earlier, like, because I do agree. I don't think it's necessarily particularly pertaining to the crash. Maybe what they were doing before that, or like what happened earlier. But it's like if they came out and said they were doing some sort of drugs or substances, there's no benefit there either, in my opinion, because there's no way to prove that they were doing them because of the blood test. So it
So
would just
here's my thought about the whole I don't remember thing. I think it's 2 weeks prior, there was an incident at Dom's house with Kendall and the girl falling down the stairs. And then Christine Russo telling all the kids, don't speak to police, don't tell them anything, tell them you don't know nothing. So she was very much trained to not trust the police by Christine Russo. So I think when the police were there, she's thinking in her head, well, I was told already to not talk to the police and don't tell them anything. So I'm just going to go with this. I don't know. I don't know and I don't remember. That's just my thought about that part. I could be wrong, but that's just where I'm at with that. I think she does remember something, but I don't think she'll come forward with it now.
I
But
think
you
she's
know,
afraid to come forward because I think that she's in a lot deeper than people think with these people. Does that make sense? I think there's a
I
lot more to the
agree.
story behind the scenes that people aren't talking about and that they don't want her to talk about, right?
I agree.
It's G, let me ask you, since you said you've been researching this and talking with everybody for so long, what do you think about Christine Russo? And I'm not here trying to
Oh,
grab her, the
it's
victim's mother,
this
but
is I don't care. This is fun for me. Jen knows.
Oh
I'm the
yeah.
person who's
Oh
been saying
yeah.
go listen to that interview. I listened to that interview years ago and I said, yeah, something's off here. But I did my own digging and something's really off here. So not only did she open a dispensary last year, which I find very interesting when she pretends like her family isn't involved in rugs and anything of that nature. And of course, you'll start doing it now because it's legal. But what about when it was illegal in '06 and
she's got
Vincent Russo?
charges in '03,
Bingo.
'06.
Exactly. And then Vincent Russo comes out and says, "Oh, y'all were planning to money launder and all this stuff, and you make it
Bingo.
disappear, and then your son's charges, you make them disappear, and like you've even been charged or civil suits of malpractice, and the exact judge Nancy Russo found you not liable for the malpractice." And I read that. It was a pretty extensive case. She got a lot of it sealed. So she gets everything sealed. I find that very interesting that she has the ability to seal everything. But if you just listen to her interview, she's very leading. Like you almost can't even tell who the investigator is. And for him to say, I trust your opinion and I respect who you are. So if you tell me to follow a
I'm
hunch,
asking
I'm
you
gonna
to tell
do
me
it.
what happens.
Exactly. And then to refuse to turn over the phone and to be able to nitpick what you want to give the police is such an interesting
Now, they never
tactic.
got the contents of that phone, right?
Nope.
She nitpicked, so she picked what she
You
thought
think what
was,
she gave.
yeah. So that's why you see only like 8 megabytes or something when you look at the case
Somebody
files of
sent
Dominic Russo.
me the request for it, right? Because I
Yes.
know that they requested it and subpoenaed it, but they got that turned away because it was registered to her law firm, right?
Yeah, but so
And
she
she
signed a
signed
form,
over.
signing it over October 10th, 2022. She signed a form giving them possession of the phone, but she did nitpick. So I learned that she actually had somebody nitpick the data that they received. So if you go into the file, like you can see Dominic Russo file, Davion
Right, I
has
got
a
that
file.
here. Mhm.
Yeah, and Mackenzie has one. His file is the smallest. I think it's like
But
4 pictures.
there's nothing
There's
for his
nothing
phone.
there.
Exactly, because she picked that out. So she picked out
Who
whatever
gave
she
it to
saw
her?
relevant. So obviously she had to throw her bone. So she threw a weed picture of him smoking weed or
One.
substances.
One.
One picture, and then carried on. And they let that be okay. But that's because you can tell if you listen to the way the investigator talked, he was scared to push that button. He didn't wanna feel like he was crossing her. But I thought something was so interesting. The most important thing I think you can take away from that interview is she doesn't, and people might crucify me for this statement. She did not care about him, not in this entire thing, but in that interview. That was not the focus of her doing that interview. It was to make sure that those mushrooms and whatever was found, those substances,
Was
were
covered
put
up.
on Mackenzie.
Yeah.
She did not want them attached to Dominic in any way. That was very, 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 very important to her. And you can tell. And I found that very interesting. And then you keep saying, your son Angelo, my son Angelo, my son Angelo. And then they say, okay, can we talk to Angelo? And you say,
No, I
actually,
said nothing.
right now might not be the best time. And then they do talk to him. And then you sit and you basically lead that one too. So
Yeah,
she's a
I have
very
that. I'm
interesting
gonna play that one
individual.
tonight.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about this. I agree with everything, right? I agree with a lot of this, a lot of the way people kept hush hush and got lawyers right away was because of Christine Russo. I do believe that Dom's got a plug, right? And so I do believe that this is the family business, in my
Yeah.
opinion, right? This is allegedly, I believe that this is a family business and that Angelo's involved, Dom's involved. But let's talk about Chris Martin. What do you know about Chris Martin Hench?
Hinch. Okay, so only thing that I've so far learned about Hinch is that he owes her. He had a very serious charge, and she was the person putting the money behind it. She's the person, if you look at who bonded him out for that charge that he had, Christine Russo name is right there. So whether he wanted to be loyal to her or not, he had no choice. He had no choice but to say, I picked him up on the freeway and I heard them arguing.
Yes, G.
Yeah, no
Not a
choice.
credible witness.
Now listen, everybody keeps coming at me, but they heard her say she was going to crash the car. They did not hear crap. Hench did after
Yeah.
he spoke with Christine and was sent there and owed Christine. He was the only person who's ever seen them fight.
Yeah.
Look at all of the interviews. I went through every one. The only person, including friends, they were like, nah, they fought behind the scenes, not in front of us. The only person to ever see them fight was Hench. The only person, someone showed me a threat, none of those text messages, not that video Christine handed over. I'm going to do something, could have been call the cops. You got drugs in the house, right? There was never a threat to his life. The only person that ever heard her say, I'm going to smash it into the car, was Hench. So I really, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only, of course, and that was the only evidence. That was damning evidence to her.
Yeah, that was the moving piece for them. That was their Trojan horse. Was he heard it 2 weeks prior? Where the only thing that we have that isn't hearsay are the text messages that say something completely different. But like you have him in your back pocket. Like that chart. Go look at the charges. Go type in his name. You can go find his name and you can go see the person who bonded him out right there, big at the top, Christine Russo.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's another thing too. You guys are talking about that, right? That his mother had this henchman go get Dom or whatever that day, supposedly, and that he heard her say this. Technically, that would be hearsay, but the text message that Mackenzie sent to his mom, that was legit. That was in black and white, and they threw that out. That was like it was nothing. But the hearsay was major evidence.
But not what was in writing. Not the stuff we actually can read. The stuff that somebody else heard from somebody else on a phone.
Exactly. I got crucified the other night because I said, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel sorry for both of them for losing their lives and everything else.
Right.
But they have, through this whole thing, all they have done is try to portray Mackenzie as the monster and him as the, what I want to say, the saint. And you can't have an argument unless there's two people arguing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm really curious. What really struck me as odd is if you look at the text messages between Mackenzie and Christine, it seems like they have this great familial relationship, right? It's like they were family almost. I'm living next door, I'm with your son, and then here she is saying that she never liked her and she was this horrible person. There's got to be a reason she's pushing this narrative.
She did not like Mackenzie. Christine did not like Mackenzie. I mean, you can see in the little bit of text messages we do have, she's like, oh, Dominic, like, why does she even have to come to dinner? She doesn't like anything I cook because she had celiac.
But I think...
Not celiac, but a gluten intolerance, I guess. Yeah.
But I think she didn't like Kinsey for one reason, and it's obvious. And it's something that every mother goes through. It's her baby with the girlfriend. So it's not that she didn't like her, but there's this there's some pushback. He's spending all this time with her. Like she said, she wanted to be in every picture. He's cooking her dinner. He's buying her this. You know what I mean? So you can tell there's some, I'm not gonna say resentment, but it's a natural thing from a mother because I was raised by my mom. It's not that they're jealous, but it's almost like they feel like they're losing their baby. So I feel like she's always had this little pushback, and they clearly look down upon the Sharillas, the mother, the father, even based on the way Dom talked about them and called them poor because they worked 9 to 5s and things of that nature, it kind of told me that they looked down upon them. So maybe she felt like she didn't meet his standard. And also, I'm sure he told his mom that she constantly threatened to blackmail and expose what was in that house. And that right there is a moving enough for me. If I'm the operator of the family business and you got this girl in our business and she's constantly put some hurt to our family, oh, I don't like you from
Enough
that point
reason for
forward.
me to want her in prison for life, because while she's in prison and she talks, no one's going to listen. It shuts her
Exactly.
mouth.
Bingo. Yep. Just lock her up, get rid of her, and let's be done with this. Yep.
That's obvious to me.
Yeah.
I've kind of seen
Yeah.
that whole business thing, business transaction. Christine, I pinpointed Christine right off the get-go.
And I'm
Just
sure
a
you read this text
disclaimer.
message, and I think it's
Yeah.
I just want to see what you think about this one text message where she says, "Or should I tell them what's in that room?" And he responds, "Blocked." I question. At that point, we're not talking about. I don't think we're talking about just MJ, Mary J. I don't think we're just talking about that at that point.
No.
So what was in that room? Where if you could say, or should I tell them what's locked away in that room? That's very, like, you know what I mean? Like there was something more going on in that. Like they were, I believe, just speculation. He was not just selling that.
No,
in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. First of all, he had a very good little selection going on. He had a very nice little smorgasbord of options going on. So no, I think there was a whole lot there. And if you look at the pictures in the foyer, those are extremely large amounts. That's what's on them. So I could just imagine what was in said room. Because yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
G,
yeah.
can I ask you a question? Maybe you know. So in the last interview Steve Sharilla did, he said one time Mackenzie came over, he opened her trunk, it was full of pew-pews, sorry. And then she said that, they're all from Dominic's house. He had to move them out because he might be being investigated or raided or something of that sort. Do you know anything about that?
I believe that's actually in the text messages because she's freaking out that he put them in her car without telling her. From my understanding, that was that same situation where because she was like freaking out because her dad discovered them, realized they were there, and she didn't even know they were there. From my understanding, but I think that's actually in the text messages as well.
Well, who owned the weapons? Who were they registered to?
So I believe Angelo said they were his, from my understanding.
Okay. Okay.
And that's just based on the text messages as well. Is Angelo was the cover up. Dom didn't even go to the house, because that's when what's his name? What's the other older brother? I'm blanking. Christopher. Yeah. So when he called the cops, they went into the house. Angelo had to say that the weapons were his. He did whatever he did, and Dom stayed far away from the house at that time. He didn't even go home immediately. That's just all in the text messages. You just got to read through the threads, and you'll see that Angelo is the one who said the weapons were his. So I'm guessing they were registered to Angelo.
Okay.
Not even that, but what do you think about there being one at the house at the party that night? Because I know that in Paul's interview with the police, they were saying that they sent the parents home to check the bushes because they had really great reason to believe that there was one at the house that night.
Yeah, I saw that, and I believe that's another reason why she didn't turn over the phone is because she knew that they were gone. Yeah. If they weren't going to get to it that same day, anything that could have been possibly incriminating was gone. She's the master of cover-ups, which is her job. She's an attorney. That's what they're good at that. They're going to save their behind. And that's what she did.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to this Russo name. When Steve did that interview with James Renner, right? And he kept saying the name Russo in the area it's a big name. It's a really important name. I really believe him. Now, while she's not connected to the supposed big time Russos, she definitely plays that name. And what do the cops know? They just hear Russo, the attorney.
He lives there. He lives in the area.
Who does?
G. It's G. He lives there in
Yeah.
Strongsville. Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, for the average person, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
the Russo name, not everyone's going to know that, the one who ran for a bench seat, Christine Russo, isn't one of those Russos.
Correct.
So I believe Steve Cirillo when he was like, it's all in the name. I think people were giving her a little bit more grace and credit because of the name Russo that she picked up
Course.
after she ran for the bench seat, mind you. She used Agnello before, but then became Russo when she wanted to be a judge. But again, you know what I mean? I believe you hear the attorney. They were speaking to her like she would have been one of those Russos. And I think that there was a lot of grace and a lot of easygoing given to her.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So I believe Steve Cirillo, like, I know people don't want to like him, right? And listen, they seem shady to me. Not shady. They just seem off to me.
A strange
Right? They don't come
dynamic.
off, yes, they don't come off as the most well-spoken. I think they love their kid. However, again, I have my own issues with them. However, what he was saying, if you put aside the fact that you don't like Steve Cirillo, if you listen to what he's saying, he's absolutely on point. He was on point about the airbags. He was on point about Christine Russo, where he was going with that. That all means something. Like, that's a big deal. For him to bring
It
that up,
is.
he also knows there's a bigger picture there.
I don't even think they're
Yeah.
necessarily shady. I just think they're weird.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in
I
a
think
sense
that's
of like he's an art teacher.
Mhm.
He just gives me that vibe of just like
Like
Flighty.
eccentric,
yeah,
kind of like,
like
an
just
eccentric
very
couple.
weird. And then when I've spoken to Natalie, I say this all the time. I've said it on every panel. That's a very sweet lady. Like, I don't care how people try to depict her, and obviously I think people think only two families lost people, but I listened to the way she spoke about Dominic, and and I've listened to the way Kenzie even spoke about Davion. They definitely cared about them, but Natalie specifically with Dominic, you can tell she viewed him as like a son. So
Yeah.
I just think they're not social media
Right.
people. They're just
They're
parents. So
not
like,
well spoken, right?
yeah, they suck at speaking. Like, honestly, they suck at speaking, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just need to stop speaking a little bit, or they need to get some media training when it comes to speaking. But at
They're
least
not helping because they're not likable. If they were
Correct.
likable, what they're saying is correct, guys. When you hear them speak, I have verified the stuff that Steve Cirillo was saying. So what he's saying is correct, but the problem is nobody wants to take it in and absorb it because he is not likable. That's the problem. So he's not helping. They need a spokesperson, someone who is likable, someone who can speak, because they're not helping because people don't like them. You know what I mean? And that's the problem because what they're saying is true. A lot of it, like a lot of the stuff they're bringing up is stuff that needs to be looked into. Like, they're on point. It's just people, they don't come off as like relatable in a way.
Well, also too, they kind of have this image of Mackenzie and the family because they went way back to what was it, 2020 or something like that for text messages and everything else and that. She was a kid. She was out of control. Yes, big deal. We all were out of control when we were kids, you know. But her parents, what they I kind of get the gist of them is they're kind of like a gypsy. You know what I mean? They don't live by the way we live. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They
They
have their
are.
own
They
their
are
own
gypsies.
morals. You know what I mean? And we have ours.
and everybody's saying, oh, like everybody who claims Kenzie is a mean girl and she got what she deserves. I just want to say to people in the comments right now, because I see a lot of y'all saying, oh, only two families lost people. That's disgusting. I would never get up here and say only two families lost people, because if you all want to pretend like the third family, just because they're part of Mackenzie, they don't care about the victims, you're lying. And if you truly believe that, you need help, honestly, because Dominic was like their son. He actually talked to Nat. He even mentions how much he would talk to Natalie. So it's like, be serious. Three families. Three families. It's disrespectful. They're grieving. They grieve as well. Their daughter's in prison for life.
Bubba's on the panel. Hey,
Well,
Bubba.
not
going
only
on?
that,
Hey.
It's G. Not only that, and I agree with you 100% because I can't remember if it was the documentary or if it was a video I seen when Steve and Natalie were getting the news in the hospital that Dom had passed, and you could see on her face that wasn't an act. When she kept on saying, "You're telling me Dom is unalived? Dom is,"
Yeah.
you could tell she was hurt. She was crushed.
He was, yeah. And not
And
only that, people
I've
also
listened to
have
her
to
talk
remember.
about him, like off camera. She doesn't know that I'm gonna talk about this. I've heard her just talk in casual conversation. The way she mentions him, it's almost like how a mom mentions a son, and it's like, dog, y'all can't tell me. Oh, it's only two families. That's just disgusting, bro. And I'm not having conversations with people like that. And if you truly believe that, you're part of the problem. Like, if you think Mackenzie's evil, you're just as evil with that type of mindset. That's all I'm gonna say.
Don't
Yeah.
call people a mean girl and then come over here bullying her with the same kind of mean girl behavior that you think she's guilty of.
Yeah,
It's
that makes no sense.
nonsense, really. It's really just nonsense. If you don't like a bully, don't be a bully. Period.
Yeah. Hey, Landon.
What's going on?
Nothing. What's going on? All right, so, man, I got questions.
Ask me questions, whatever you want to ask me.
I'm not even going to ask. You want to just talk? It saves me the trouble of having to ask.
I mean, I don't even know what to talk about anymore. I've just seen so much crap, and I guess the most stuff I've been seeing is me and Rosie being by the crash scene at the time of the crash. It's crazy. So
Yeah, I've been seeing that. I
Yeah.
never seen that. That doesn't.
I have. I've seen it.
yeah, it's crazy. Nah, so like me and Rosie, we never had Life 360. I don't know. I just never had parents who enforced that on me, so I never had it on my phone. The Life 360, that was like that. So that was Davion, and that was like a whole group of friends that Davion had. That I mean, I knew I was friends with them. I wasn't hanging out with them on the regular, but I've hung out with them before. But that was like a whole group that had Life 360, and it was mainly for if everyone's at one person's house, let's go here, and they'd be able to see it on Life 360. You wouldn't have to bug each other and stuff and whatnot. So me and Rosie, no, we did not have Life 360. We did not know that. And where her driving past the crash comes from is her driving down Pearl Road past Progress. And somewhere down the line that got miscommunicated, that got transcribed differently to the police, saying that she just drove past the crash site and didn't say that she witnessed it, nothing like that. I do find it odd, though. I do find it odd that the police think that somebody tampered with stuff in the car. Like how they're like, oh, they look like when this first happened, I can't remember who we heard it from, but it wasn't from police. It wasn't from anyone credible. We had heard that they thought someone had gone through the trunk because the trunk was found open or something like that. It was something along those lines where we heard that in the beginning, and then it never really went anywhere. I mean, we just thought it was a rumor. And then now we see where this rumor stemmed from in the case files and stuff, with the police saying, is there a fourth, is there a runner or whatnot? But
Yeah.
I think if there was anyone that tampered with anything in the car, I feel like it would be on camera. I feel like that last camera footage I've seen where you see the car really go into the wall, I feel like you'd see anybody that pulls up to the scene, goes past it. That's another thing too. If any of us drove past it, they would have seen us drove past it. That would have been on camera. That would have been investigated. But so I don't really know where that stuff comes from. But so I don't know. And I also see people saying I don't know. I just saw this random post where it was they were on Xanax. People I'll tell you now. I know this for a fact. I know Dom messed with that type of stuff. I know he experimented with a lot more harsh things. But when it comes me, Rosie, and anyone else there that night. I don't really know as much about Mackenzie. Like I don't know what she's done with Dom and what she hasn't done with Dom too much. I mean, I would assume she's maybe experimented a little bit more because, with Dom being around, I don't know. But for me, for Rosie, for the other two people that were there that night that nobody wants to talk about, the most harsh thing we've ever done in our life is mushrooms. I mean, they come from the earth. I don't really think that they're that harsh. I don't think that they're a drug addict type of drug. I think it's really more like we're teenagers, let's experiment with this. I mean, I'm still a smoker to this day. I still smoke weed. It's legal now in Ohio. I'm not really ashamed or shy by that whole aspect of drugs, but so yeah, there was no, I don't know if they took anything earlier. I don't know what they did, or I know that they went to the zoo and I knew that they were at some form of grad party before they saw us. That's anything in between there, or what the specific details that happened at those events, we don't really know. We weren't there. We've only heard what they've said to the police.
Mushrooms are legal in Washington State, by the way, too.
They're legal in Colorado too. I know that. That was another reason. Fun fact: the kids that were texting Davion while he was in the car, and they texted him a picture of a view they were in Colorado, and one of the main reasons why they go to Colorado is because they are legal there, and it's they got crazy sick views. It's for anyone, I don't know. I hate how the whole world's trying to look at just us four, me, Rosie, Dom, and Dave and Kenzie. We're drunk. No, the whole group, everyone that's involved, everyone that's going and talking to the police, all these people, they're all involved with they're all involved with that stuff. They all know what's going on. They were all consciously aware that this stuff was going on. For people to sit here and knock Kenzie or even Dom's or even Davion's parents, you can't knock them for what their kids were doing at the time, because I'll tell you this now, there's parents that were on the football team where we're out there drinking underage with them. We're out there smoking underage with them. So it's it's stuff like that where this stuff happened in Strongsville all the time. So it's not something that, we can the only reason that you can knock these parents for it is because now it's national news. That's really the only reason why people can knock them. Any other reason, you can knock 70% of the parents that live in Strongsville because all their kids did the same shit.
All the same thing. Yeah.
Well, Strongsville's not very big anyways, is it, Landon?
Not really, no. I mean, it's not the biggest, but I would say all of the cities surrounding it, friend-wise, everyone's friends. But when it comes to sports and it comes to competition and stuff like that, it's very divided. It's oh no, it's us versus the other cities, But when it comes to friends and knowing people, it's very everyone knows each other. I know a lot of people from all the cities that surround Strongsville.
So I have a question for you.
What's up?
You haven't been there that night, obviously, and knowing them and know how they left and the situation. Can I ask, what do you believe happened?
There's two things that I believe happened. One, and this is because when I look at this case and I look at the evidence and I look at the court and everything, it seems to me that the police were really trying to stretch everything. They're really just trying to stretch stuff to make it fit a certain narrative. They're trying to make everything work out to where they can get her off on these charges. And that's the part that I disagree with. I really just want to know the truth. And to me, the information that we have of that 4-minute drive is only 5 seconds. We only have 5 seconds and a couple videos on camera of them driving past streetlights. That's all. That's the only information we have. There's no information on phones. There's no text messages. Davion was on his phone, the on the road that they crashed on, and there's no evidence of him calling police, texting.
Right?
Yeah. There's nothing. There's nothing where they're there's nothing from that drive. And so for me, the most I can make of it is reckless driving. Maybe they turned down the road and how fast? Because I know this one thing. One thing about Dom and Kenzie, and I don't know how often they would try to do it, but I know they would try sometimes to see how fast they could get home from certain spots. Now, does that mean they're going to drive 100 miles per hour through back roads? No, I don't know. They never really went into great detail about that. I don't know if it was like, testing out different routes, doing whatever. It could be a numerous amount of different things that they could have been hinting towards that. But, at the most, in my opinion, is it could be reckless driving. Oh, let's see how fast we can get down this road, and the end of the road at that rate of speed came too quickly. Like that's the most,
what I believe happened.
that's the most like hostile thing that I could see in this case. Now I am open, and I do believe that like a medical episode could have happened. Anything else could happen if there's evidence that supports that. If there's evidence, and there's like a significant amount of evidence that needs to be investigated, I think that should be investigated further. Because like I preach this to this day, like me and Rosie and the two other kids that were there that night, and like even all of our families, like we sit here and we still think like we don't know how our two friends lost their life. Like we still sit here, we don't know, because like we have theories, we have assumptions, we have things that we could think of that have, evidence that kind of supports it, but it's never been properly investigated by experts who, you can take their word for it,
Right.
And that's like the biggest way that we feel. And like, I don't know, I guess those are my two biggest things, is like some form of like a medical episode like that, or even like them reckless driving, and the airbags deploying before, and then becoming like unaware and not being able to like control the car. Like maybe who's to say that they weren't able to slow down at the speed they were going, at the distance they were at when those airbags went off, like who's to say they weren't able to slow down, and that moment right there is just that moment that messed it all up,
Yeah.
Well, see, I kind of agree with you on that, Landon, because that when those two kids went into the cop shop and said that Davion was on his phone at 5:35, and the accident happened at 5:36. If Kenzie and Dom were fighting, or there was any shit going on inside the car, do you really think he would have been on his phone?
Yeah, nah. I don't think he would have. And another thing that kind of touches base on that is like, so there's certain individuals, I'm not going to name names, but there's certain individuals that try to say that me or that Rosie is a liar because we've never seen Mackenzie and Dom fight. Oh, we're a liar. But then there's text messages where it clearly shows that we know. Here's the thing. We've never, with our two eyes, have seen Kenzie nor Dom raise their voice towards each other. We've never seen them become hostile. None of that.
You're not the only one that said that. When I was listening through the interviews, other people said the same thing.
Yeah, I know Blair, Dom's best friend, said the same thing. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think Dom's mom and brother said the same thing and kind of acted surprised when they found out the text messages or whatever was going on. So like, it was very uncommon for them to like have an argument or something like that in front of people, and like there's been multiple, like, I don't know, I would say out of all the times I've hung out with them over that summer, because really like for me personally and Rosie, honestly, like we really started hanging out with Dom and Kenzie over that summer. Like Kenzie and Rosie weren't best friends for like 4 years prior. No, they really started talking. Like I think actually it's crazy. There's a Snapchat video from Kenzie's phone that like was put in evidence files where she's talking about like pearls, and she's talking about getting her nails done, and she'll tip a girl. That was actually sent to Rosie, and that was one of the first times that Rosie and Kenzie like actually hung out privately together for Rosie to do her makeup. That was the first time. So whenever that video was taken is when they started talking and really became friends. So they weren't like best of friends, but they were like close friends, and they were just getting closer and closer and closer as the days go on, And it was the same thing for me and Dom. Rosie and Kenzie were doing their thing. Me and Don would have to do our thing. It was as the weeks were going on, we're getting closer and closer and closer. And I was finding out more about them. But never once in any of these times have we ever witnessed them like be hostile or even like catch an attitude or like act a certain way toward each other. Like we've never seen that. And I know like Rosie knows that there has been fights. Like we know that there have been fights and there has been things that's gone down in the past. But the only thing that really I remember talking about over text or finding out over text was the whole highway incident. Like when that whole highway incident 2 weeks prior, Kenzie actually texted Rosie. She texted Rosie about it and shit like that. And they ended up hanging out that day and talking about it. And like Kenzie was really on the fence about like leaving Dom because she didn't know if like that was how he reacted when he would like, because my whole thing about Dom is that he's kind of like me in a way. Like he's quiet until you make him pop off, you know. And then when he pops off, he just goes over the top. He kind of goes over extreme, and then it doesn't help the situation at all. You know, like it all plays a part in how toxic the relationship is. You know, and if those two individuals know how they react in certain moments and how they react to certain information and stuff, and just you just have to kind of like know that that's how they're going to react and not take it a certain way. And I don't think either of them were to that point in their relationship yet. You know, I think like one of them would say something and the other one would like take it to complete like over the extreme, and it's just a battle from there on out, you know. But nothing that's we've never heard or seen anything that's ever like deathly or bodily harm in any sort of way, you know. And
Nothing too crazy.
yeah,
Landon,
and like
can I ask
the
you a
things.
question?
Hold up, yeah, yes, but like another thing I want to reiterate too is like the amount of like times, like for the highway incident, for instance, like every time something like that would happen, it's always like Kenzie wanting to leave Dom. You know what I mean? So that's like when this whole narrative of Dom wanting to leave Kenzie and this and that, it's like this does not make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like knowing these individuals personally, it makes no sense.
I want to bounce off that, what you just said. So now you knowing them and being around them, and especially there that night, you know Christine Russo, right? You know Dom's family, or you don't know her?
So here's the crazy part. They want to knock me so hard. They've never met me. Well, here's the crazy part. My parents, Rosie's parents, the other girls' parents that were there that night have all met Dom and Kenzie. They know Dom and Kenzie. They've met him multiple times. But yet we've never ever met any of Dom's family. Dom's family never came around. We knew of his brothers, we knew of his mother. I've never heard about his sister up until she made this podcast now. Like I knew he had a sister, but I didn't know how involved and all that. I knew a little bit, he told me a little bit of like him and his dad's history and stuff, but I don't know to the fullest extent how involved they are in his life and whatnot. So like I don't know. Yeah, like that always just blows my mind. It's like they sit here and try to bash us. We've never met you guys. You're not their friends. Where it's like, well, my parents have met Dom and Kenzie and Davion. I mean, so with Rosie's parents have met all of these kids. So why haven't we met their parents? I don't know. You know, I just don't know.
So that's a good point. But let me ask you this. Do you feel like Christine Russo is pushing the narrative that she intentionally did this?
Yes. I do think that they're trying to overtake the public's opinion because when it comes to appeals, I think that varies a lot. I do think that with this whole Netflix doc, they got to see it in October early. So we actually all parties involved, me, Rosie, Kenzie's family, we were all promised an early viewing. Well, our side, me and Rosie, and I think from the last thing I heard, Steve and Natalie didn't get an early viewing either. None of us got an early viewing. It was only the families, Davion and Dominic's families, who got early viewings. And I guess there was some things that they didn't like that some of us had said. And I'll only explain the nature of those. I won't go too deep into detail. I went on it in a different live. But it involved rugs and it involved just stuff of us hanging out and whatnot, and like things that I'm not ashamed of, that we're not ashamed of to talk about. You know, we're just not ashamed of talking about it and sharing those stories. And I mean, respectively, I could see how a family member wouldn't want those stories to come out. And my whole thing is like, so what they have said, to what the families have said, is they had editing power, that they were able to make editing suggestions when they saw it in October. And they got a lot of stuff removed because I think I have like 18 hours of footage with that Netflix documentary where like we went to multiple different locations, me filming multiple different things that I've done with these boys. And it was going to be like B-roll film and there was interviews and stuff. And I mean, we went into great detail on everything. And then when it came out, like it was completely different. Like I would say we didn't get an early viewing. We got a phone call where they ran us step by step through the documentary. And at that point in time, I'd say that was about like a month and 2 weeks out from it releasing. It was still supposed to be a 3-episode documentary where the first episode was supposed to be all me and Rosie, the second one was the prosecution, and the third one was Mackenzie. And then it came out, and it was only an hour and 20 minutes. So like,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
so they cut a lot of stuff out. I really want to know what. And I don't know, like I would push for them to release the full footage, because now I got people out here saying that I've said disrespectful things about Dom and that I'm lying about Dom. In reality, it's not. Like, it's the complete truth. It's just the truth that they don't want to hear. You know, they don't want people to hear, you know?
Dominic, I'm sorry, Landon, can you clarify for the chat who, out of the three, Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davion, who were you the closest with?
Davion.
Okay, so now with that being said, if you felt that Mackenzie took your friend away on purpose, how would you be honest with that with the public?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I would like, and Davion's not like my average best friend. Like, I have two best friends that, you know, that when I get off the phone here, I'm gonna go play the game with. I sit there every night with them. I talk to them every day. Davion was a lot different than that. Davion, you know, the fact that he lived with me and we shared like our personal lives together, and like I don't know, he was kind of more of a brother to me. He wasn't,
kind of friend.
yeah, he wasn't like, I wouldn't even say a friend or a best friend. He was more of a brother to me, and there's a lot of things that he knows and that I know about him that nobody will ever know, and nothing that pertains to this case, nothing that's important. It's stuff that's in our personal life. So it's just like I share a different bond with him, and yeah, no, I do preach just a lot of what you said, is that like, if I truly felt that this girl murdered my best friend slash like brother, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I would be sitting there on TMZ. I'd be sitting there on my platform with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, you know, bashing and talking shit about this girl. But I just
That's
truly,
what I've always said as well, that you would have no reason, because you were the closest with him, to side with her unless you really believed her.
Yeah. And another thing, just to touch on Davion, since we're on Davion real quick, there's another thing too that like I really just want to get out there that it upsets me a lot in a way, and it's the fact that like at some point in time after this accident, somebody in some group or someone came up with the narrative or came up with the way where Davion doesn't matter as much, or that he's like some form of cargo in the car. And I feel like it's just kind of bullshit. Like, it's just bullshit, because it's like, I don't know who in their right mind would ever come out and say that, or like say such a thing of that nature to put into the media and to put into the world to think about. Because like at the time, nobody thought that. Like, nobody was like, Davion didn't deserve to be there. Like, everyone knew why Davion was there. It wasn't like it didn't make sense that Davion was not in the car. Like, that was a very, like, out of all the people in our lives, that was a very, I would say he was at the top of the list of being a victim in that car. You know, me, Rosie, we all could have been subjected to being in that car at any point in time, you know? So it's like this whole thing of him being like cargo and not his life not mattering as much, just bullshit. It's bullshit. I don't know who came up with it.
It's absolutely disgusting.
And then it turned and then it carried over to some race thing, and I don't know. Like, it blows my mind that like that's just like how the world is treating this, and it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with how close he was. These people, it has nothing to do that he wasn't meant to be in the car. Like, no. The things that happen in this world are meant to happen, and they happen for a reason, you know. And I have my reasonings and my beliefs on why I think they were able to leave this world. You know, I think that it's more of a positive thing that they were able to escape this evil world that we live in. I mean, look at the stuff that they're doing with this case, you know, in the media, in the world. Like, that's the evil that like we're talking about here, where it's just like they were able to escape that in a way. And I don't know. That's kind of how I look at the situation and stuff like that.
So
Sometimes it's the only way you can look at things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So now let me ask you this. Why do you think that the Russos, because I feel like not so much the Flanagans, or maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I don't feel like they're pushing this narrative as hard. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think it's
Why does Russo want her to be guilty of murder so bad, do you think?
There's a lot of different areas I could touch on this, and like one is like I know this. I know Davion's parents aren't as comfortable, I think, of speaking up in the public light as some of Dom's family, you know, and I think that that's a reason. I do think after seeing a lot of the case files, you know, and seeing like some of the emails that Davion's mom sent to the police, like thinking that like there's one about Rosie posting some post about home not being home no more. And they thought that that was her talking about me talking to the police, but that wasn't it. Like the whole thing that these families and the prosecution forgot about, at least when it comes to me and Rosie and like some of us friends that were there that night, is that like, man, we had a whole life that we had to like keep going with. Like we were going to college in 2 weeks after they died. It's not like we just put everything on pause and sit here and grieve for months and months. Like, no, like, you know, we had 2 weeks to kind of wrap our head around things and we were off in college, you know, and when we were off in college, I don't know if anyone's college students in here, but you know how it is being a freshman in college. It's like it's hectic. Everything's different, you know. And the last thing we were kind of thinking about was the stuff that happened back at home. We were kind of just going to let that play out and let it go like how it was supposed to go. And then once we realized it wasn't going like a factual and right way, we're like, wait, hold on, what the hell, you know? And so, I mean, I would say when it pertains to them wanting to push this narrative, I would say that allegedly, surrounded in allegedliness,
Entertainment
Dom,
purposes only.
yeah, Dom provided a lot for that family. He did a lot of things. I know, and I could say this now because anyone can try and do whatever they want. Get that boy's phone and look at the text messages between him and his mother and see how many times his mother's getting money off of him and stuff. You feel me? So it's like, it's stuff like that where there's a lot more deeper things behind the scenes that nobody's ever going to know about. And I feel like that's why they're pushing this so heavy, is because there's things that are missing that aren't there anymore. And there's no other way to fill that other than doing this, you know? And I also feel that, and I don't want to speak too much like personally on this, because like I said, like, I've never met any of these people personally. I don't know how people deal with grief. You know, I don't know how they deal with that. I don't know what their approach is to that. I don't know if, you know, some people can handle that better and more peacefully than others. Some people can handle it more hostility towards others, you know. But I mean, I don't really even focus like I'm at the point now in this case where I don't even know if the families like believe what the prosecution's putting or if they are just blatantly like lying to continue with this. Like, I don't know. I'm at like kind of like a fence with that where it's like I can't tell if they're just blatantly lying or if they're just believing like what the prosecution says. But like all of my questions and all of my things go towards the prosecution, I'd say, is like, why did they stretch this hard to do this? And like there's like they like for instance, like their main piece of evidence of the incident on the highway, they go into court and they say, oh, she did this, and that. We got witnesses. But then there's text messages. There's literal text messages from Dominic Russo himself, where he admits he wants to off himself and that he's
And then
sorry.
you have
Like,
the word of Hench, who is friends with the family, though, is the one who supposedly heard all this. Meanwhile, what we have in writing that we can read right in front of our face is something completely different. Tells a completely different
my whole
story.
thing with that Hench guy, I always thought he was a weird guy, because there was one time actually where I was at Dom's grave chilling, and some kid that is involved with this case, his name is mentioned in the files. I ain't gonna put the light on him though, but he ended up trying to come up to me and like confronting me in a way, and I had to hop on his ass a little bit. And then once I did, I look at the corner of my eye and I see Dom's mom and I see this Hench guy. And I think to believe what's his kid, and then like a cousin coming up, and they all are like standing behind me. And like, I don't know, I kind of felt intimidated in a way, because I kind of felt like surrounded in a way, but like I'm a big guy, so I don't really get intimidated like that. So I was just kind of like calling them all out on the bullshit that they're talking about. But I would say this, like from the one time that I did stand next to Hench, he is a very eerie type of guy, like not an intimidating guy, but he's a very eerie, like he has skeletons in his closet in a type of way, you know? And I will say this, that I do find it odd that, like, I don't know what relations he has to that family. I don't know if they're friends. I don't know if they're, you know, his daughter or his family members married to some. I don't know. I don't know any of that information, but I do find it weird that he's just randomly living with them And from all we know, he is just someone that Dom's mom has defended in court. And on top of that, when he went in to testify as a witness, I do feel as if that was a little bit shady, because it's like, all right, you're living with the victim's mother. So like, I don't know if that causes, certain things or certain, what is it, statutes to be violated or whatnot. I don't know. I'm not really
Conflict of
sure.
interest.
Conflict of interest, yeah, all of that type
Yeah.
of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. They took his word and what he said, even though he's friends with the mother and friends with the family. They took his word over what we saw physically, the conversation to be. And that was such a big part of their evidence. How
Yep.
was him hearing a conversation over the phone, supposedly, more than what we're seeing written?
Another thing too that I saw one of the family members say is that she ended up texting Dom's mom when she got back home to save face, right? But here's my whole question about that. In those text messages, she literally tells her to come pick Dom up off the highway. So what? This is like an hour later. He's not on the highway anymore. You know what I mean? He's wherever the fuck he's at. I don't know how you're saying to come that she's trying to save face, and then on top of that, his mom is like engaging in the conversation like it's in real time. It's not like they already went and picked him up and then she's doing all this to save face, and she's not like, well, why are you texting me this now? This happened 30 minutes. Like it's very weird. It's like, it's almost like they're trying to beat around the bush. And then it's like, I've also heard too that like, the big sister in Hinge was supposed to react towards the documentary. She was supposed to react to Steve Shrilla's video on James Renner. She was supposed to react to all these things, and she never did. She never did. She never watched any of those. She never reacted to none of those. And now all of a sudden she's moving on from this case and is talking about other cases.
Well, let me ask you about that. Like, what does she even know? Was she even involved in this entire process or case? What knowledge does she have other than Dom's her brother?
So here's what I know. I know that from what I've heard, and some of this is allegedly and some of it's not, but I'll just say it's all allegedly at the end of the day. And so what I've heard is Dom's sister and Dom's dad was not really too involved in his life at the time of his passing, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe like before his passing, and at the time they were kind of rekindling and reconnecting in a way. But I know this. I know when the documentary company came to talk to us, so there's like legal obligations where they can't talk about other parties or who's talking or whatnot. But what they did tell us is that there was, at the time when we first, because I would say we met with them before we filmed, we met with them 4 different times on 4 different occasions. Twice was here at our home, and twice is out for dinner. Out for dinner at this restaurant downtown. And so in one of those times, we were told that nobody's representing Dom as of now, that nobody is stepping up to the plate to want to talk, like, represent Dom. And then we later find out, once they walked us through the film, who was actually talking about Dave and who was talking about Dom. And that's when we found out who was talking about Dom. And I don't know, I found it very weird, because I know for a fact his brother Angelo, his mother Christine, his other brother, I think his name might be Christopher too. I just know he goes by Toph. His name's Toph. We call him Toph. But I know all of them knew Dom and Kenzie 10 times more than his dad and his sister. Like, I'm like, not even to over exaggerate it, like, these people were involved in these kids' life every day. These other people that went on and represented them they were not, so that's also always been my thing, is that, like, I'm very interested to hear from them. Like, I'm very interested to hear from them, because I don't know if, like, I know some people say, oh, well, some certain family members aren't ready to talk, but I know Angelo's out there at the bar partying and out there at the clubs. There's people that I work with that's met him at the bars, have told me that they've met him there. I've seen it on his social medias, on people that were Dom's friends' socials. Like, so I don't know if he's still grieving or not, but I would really like to hear from him, because I know, like, he's talked to Natalie himself. Like, he's texted Natalie. He had a relationship with Natalie. He had a relationship with all of them. So, like, I really want to know what he wants to say, what he has to say about this whole shit.
Bubba, I have one more question. Also, can you clarify and I think you answered this on Nicole True Crimes, but I'm just going to ask again for people that didn't hear. Were you or Rosie paid for your part in the Netflix documentary?
Nope. So, little fun fact about that is, so the Mean Girl Murders. I don't know about the other one. Whatever other one that's out there is on Hulu. Or no, HBO is on HBO. But I know Mean Girl Murders for sure. They hit me and Rosie up wanting to go on there. And when they first came to us, they were really heavily focused on the social media aspect, and that they also told us that we would be heavily compensated for doing that documentary. And so that was really, I mean, the two reasons that they listed out was the two reasons why we opted out not to do it. Was number one is because we stand strong on this whole, like Rosie's socials, even my socials, even though they're not that prominent, like they have never been involved in this case. And when it did happen, yeah, like when this did happen, like I know for a fact, like so Rosie started her YouTube in 2020. She took a break from 2021 all the way up to like 2023. Like after we had gotten back from college, because me and her only went to college for one semester after they died. So it was like 2 weeks we went to college. We went to college for a semester, and then we came home. Once we came home and we got our own place and we were living together and all that stuff, like she started back up her YouTube, and she grew her YouTube from 200,000 subscribers to 1.2 million subscribers. So like never once in this whole case has any of this been involved in that, and we could have easily used it, but we didn't. And so the whole aspect of the Mean Girl Murders, like the social media and the fact that people were getting paid to go on there and talk, we didn't want to do it. We don't want any form of compensation. We don't want any form of benefit off of our two friends dying. It's not logical. It's very frowned upon. I know me and Rosie morally wouldn't be okay with that, if we built our whole life off of that. So it was morally, we wouldn't want to do that. And so when Netflix reached out to us, they came out to us at a whole different approach. And they were like, we really kind of want to connect the way that your friend group and the activities and the things that you guys participated in, we want to kind of bridge the connection towards like the older generations in the world who can't understand or can't wrap their mind around why young girls act like this, or why young friend groups will do the things that they do. They just can't wrap their head around it. And that's how they approached us. And never once was there ever mention of any compensation. I mean, I could post our contracts. There's never once any mention of any compensation. And so that's kind of really why we went with it, is because we felt as if they were going to do a lot more of a open approach towards it. And we knew nobody was really going to benefit too crazily off of this, And at the time too, when we were filming this, and it was all in pre-production, and they were sending us images and they were sending us things that we had to sign off on to be allowed to be put in the documentary because it was taken by us. Like the biggest things that we were like saying no to were her social medias. We're like, we do not sign off on this. Do not put her social medias in here. It had, like when it comes to Rosie and Kenzie, they were modeling. It had nothing to do with YouTube, nothing to do with TikTok, nothing to do with Instagram. It was straight modeling. And I'm talking like modeling by the books, going with agencies of Doherty, going with IMG, like all these different like actual modeling agencies, not no social media aspect. So when it comes to this social media aspect, it's like, it's completely made up and false, because that's not what was going through their heads at that point in time. And so like we really pushed for them not to put that in the documentary. And I know Rosie at some point ended up posting the text messages where they simply agreed. They agreed, okay, we'll cut it out or we'll make a mock-up of it and send it to you guys. Well, they never made up a mock-up. We just assumed that they cut it out and we're okay with it. And then it comes out. And it's front page and center square. And then on top of that, they put it in so where she has 200,000 subscribers. So when you, the viewer, go look at her account, she has 1.2 now. Yeah, so it's like
Oh, it
what?
looks like she was looking for clout. They did it on purpose.
No, like I'll tell you now, like if anyone wants to look at who's looking for clout, like this Netflix documentary came out. Look how many like rats in Strongsville, how many people that were like friends with Mackenzie in middle school or early on in high school, or even some of the family members, they make a video about this. Like I know Davion's sister made a video about the documentary, and then her next video was a cooking video. So it's like what are we doing here? Like we're obviously using this public attention to build ourselves a community to make money and profit off of. So like I just don't understand it. And like some people can look at it like, well, oh, that's their families. They would want them to do that. That's fine. Like you can look at it that way. That's fine. But for me in my shoes and in Rosie's shoes, when you're coming at us calling us clout chasers, but yet we've refused to like even still like publicly post about this on our accounts because we don't want the attention. We don't want any of that. Like it blows my mind that people can't read and read through the lines. You know, it just blows my mind.
Another big question that I see going around a lot, and I personally have already gotten this answer from you, and I hate to keep asking the same questions, but for other people, they want to know about Mackenzie's POTS and if you guys knew that she had POTS, and because a lot of people are saying it was made up, it never happened, she had no problems with it, she was having no episodes, that it's all fake. So
Yeah.
I'm just
So
gonna ask you.
I know for me, Rosie, and I know even the two people that were there that night, because I know one of them even mentions it in their interview with police. Yeah, we all were aware of the POTS. So we didn't know like the fullest extent of what the POTS could be, you know, like what the symptoms are, what happens. We just like we would hear stories about how she'd be in the kitchen, and next thing you know, her mom would hear the sound of a bowling ball hitting the floor, and that's her head hitting the floor because she passed out. You know, like I know that there were some incidents in school, but nothing. Nothing to where it was like talked about every day in a way, you know, like we knew of it. It wasn't anything that, and it's crazy because when this accident first happened, like literally when it first happened, and we went back to the kid's house that we were at that night, that was the first thing that was running through our mind. Is like, did she have a POTS attack? Did something happen to where she like passed out behind the wheel? Like, what the hell happened? That was the very first thing we thought about when it came to like thinking about what could happen. It was that and reckless driving. It was simply that and reckless driving. And we thought that way the whole way. And the next thing you know, out of thin air, this whole, they were supposed to break up. They were seeing other people. That's bullshit. Show me the evidence where they were seeing other people, you know? And like I said on the other live, and I'll say it again, the whole thing of Mackenzie being a prostitute, no, she was not out here selling her body because she wanted to. It was more of like I swear I've told Rosie to do this before. I swear to God I've told her to do this before. And it's just something that like a man who's trying to like get as much money as he can will like do. And it's like, oh, go out here and find these dumb 60-year-old men who are hornballs who will send you $50 just to see a picture of your feet or just to see a picture of your hair, you know, of you playing with your hair, like some stupid stuff like that. Like go and finesse him out of all of his money, please, you know. And that was like really what Dom was pushing kind of for Kenzie, and it wasn't like in a bad way or like yeah,
it's like
and
go open a foot finder and see what dummy or
Yeah,
pig
exactly.
you can find.
Yeah, it's not like he was pimping her out or he was forcing her to do this or he's like, you ain't make no money, bitch, and smack, you know, like no, like it's nothing of those sorts. It was simply of like, okay, can we finesse guys out of their money this way? Okay, cool, because you know, $50 in my pocket is $50 I'm about to go spend on dinner. It's $50 I'm putting towards a new pair of Balenciagas. You know, it's just how it is. It's how Dom thought. It's how I think. At least how I thought at the time, I would say. But I mean, it's just how it is. There was no like conspiracy or like anything deeper than what I just said. There was nothing deeper than that, you know.
I think people tend to forget how young all of you guys actually are and were at the time.
It seems people forget that this was 4 years ago too. It seems like people forgot this was like 4 years ago, and like yeah, I don't know, like it. Like some people seem like, oh, he doesn't seem too sad about it now, and it's just like, I'm sorry, I don't know how it is to grieve in a family's perspective, but as a friend or a best friend, like there's a lot of things that I do on a daily basis that's in a tribute to them, you know, and stuff like that, and like it's subconscious at this point. It's not even something that like, oh, I have to go do this for them. No, it's something that's just subconscious, something that's part of my routine. So it's like, yeah, no, like I'm like I said at a point
talk
now
about grief. I'm going to interrupt really quick. You just brought up grief and how you're grieving. A lot of people are saying that they don't see remorse or grief in Mackenzie. Did you see her following the accident, and what do you think about that?
Damn right, man. Man, let me tell you, like, so there was one story where, so we had gone and seen Mackenzie in the hospital. It's been a long time, so I can't give you like an exact time frame. but I would safely assume it was like a week or two after she got admitted to the hospital, and we went and saw her, and at like Natalie and Steve stay, they were trying to keep the fact that Dom had passed. They were trying to kind of keep that from her, and eventually it got to her, and then they let her deal with that. And so then they're like, don't talk about the funeral. Do not say when the funeral is. Don't talk about it. She's going to freak out if she can't go to it. And right now, in the state of condition that she's in, she physically cannot go. So my dumbass, when we saw her, accidentally like had mentioned, like not saying, like I'd mentioned that Dom was having a funeral. And it was like very subliminally. It wasn't like on purpose. I didn't mean to. And she found out, and she didn't like cause a scene right then and there. Me and Rosie ended up leaving, and once we left, I guess she started freaking the fuck out, finding out that Dom was having his funeral, that she couldn't go. And so then I would say about like 6 o'clock that night, Steve calls us and he goes, like, Mackenzie's literally getting out of bed right now. She, like, with all of the injuries she just sustained, she is physically getting out of bed and is wanting to rip out her IVs and go to this funeral, no matter what the cost is. And so me and Rosie ended up having to go back to the hospital to calm her down before police had to intervene. And I think there's a police thing about that where they had to be called. Yeah, that was that whole incident. So me and Rosie ended up going back and calming her down and like making sure she stays in bed and she stays rested and stuff. So like that right there kind of like that was one of those moments in this time where it was like I was seeing the pain firsthand. You know, I was seeing it with my own eyes and I was feeling it. And then like I knew that she had created a shrine of Dominic in her room. She had the last jar of weed that Dominic ever had. She had like she never touched it, kept it in the jar unopened. Like everything that was of Dom's was completely untouched, unscathed, like clothes, everything. She would only wear them at certain times to make sure the smell stayed on them. Like everything was about Dom at that point. I also remember too, like when she went out to OU for the Halloween, as we dressed up as 3 dead corpses, all that stuff. We ended up actually like begging her. Like we begged her to come out. She was refusing to come out, and we begged her to come out. And I think her dad kind of helped just a tiny bit because I know he's alumni to OU, so he kind of like was sharing stories about how fun it is and how you can go down there and have some fun. So I think he helped us out a little bit in that sense. So we ended up getting her out there, and like I said before in the other live too, like that whole idea of us going down to OU for Halloween specifically, we planned that night with Dave and Dom. Like that whole night was about us going to college. The night they died was about how we're about to go to college. I had to go to college earlier than the girls because I was playing football. So like, the whole night was about how like literally we have a week for, out of all of us, we have a week before we went to college because I went earlier, you know? And so that night, we're like, Dom was like, dude, OU, I've heard OU's Halloween. I don't know if anyone's from Ohio here, but OU, Ohio University, their Halloween weekend is like one of the crazy, it's like in history, the craziest Halloween weekend at any college. And so we were planning that with them that night. I do remember we were watching videos of Kid Cudi on the TV of him performing live. And that's why she went to the Kid Cudi concert, was because we were talking about that. And then we were like, oh, well, he's coming to Cleveland in however many months. Let's go see him, you know? And so all of those were plans that we made with them boys and stuff like that. And we begged her to get out the house and come do them. And I mean, the reason why she was staying in the house all the time is because she was grieving, because she didn't want to go outside. She was sad. She was like, people forget, like, no matter what the text messages say or how toxic their relationship was, these were 2 people that spent 4 years together every day, sleeping together, spending the night over. Like they seem to forget like that's not a thing, but that's how it was. Like, so yes, like it was a big shocker to her when he died. And then I will say this too, like, she went to prison. I'm telling you right now, it's going to hit her just as hard whenever she comes home, whenever that is. If it's in 10 years, if it's in 5 years, if it's in 15 years, however many years it is. whenever she comes home, it's going to hit her just as hard because she had a very short amount of period to live her life kind of without him in a way. And
Yeah.
not being physically blocked by the medical repercussions and all that. Like, I'm talking about going back to normal life, being able to do your normal daily schedule without him though. You know, she hasn't experienced that yet.
Hasn't been given the
actual life.
opportunity to properly grieve.
No. And I remember too, like even at OU when we were down there, like me being the only guy that was there with it was them three girls and me as the only guy. I would say about an hour into the night, I ended up having to like carry her half over my shoulder in a way, like having her arm over me because her injuries and stuff. Because I think OU was the first like legitimate time she actually like wasn't using a wheelchair and she got up and she was walking around. So it was very hard on her. And I ended up having to help her around all night. And we ended up going back early that night because of her injuries. And then the same thing with the concert. There's a picture out there floating around of her at the concert where she's just sitting on her phone in the wheelchair. Well, coming from the girl that was standing behind her in that picture, she states that Kenzie was just sitting there looking at pictures, all going through her camera roll, looking through pictures, looking through old text messages of her and Dom, and just crying her eyes out, and ended up actually going back to the car before the main performer, Kid Cudi, even came on. She ended up going back to the car because she was sad, and that she was not only sad, but she was also in pain from the injuries of just sitting there in a wheelchair uncomfortably for that long amount of time. She ended up going back to the car and just sitting in the car until the rest of the girls got done with the concert that night. So it's like they just painted like a complete half picture of all these instances and didn't explain the full thing. It's just shitty.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I'm going to ask you this now because I've been picking it up in the chat. In the interview with, I believe it was Paul, were there guns at the house that night?
No. So it's funny. So actually that right there is the reason why we didn't talk to police. So what was it? Paul. So when I went back to Paul's house after they had died that morning, and it was all of us that was there that night, and we're trying to wrap our heads around what the hell happened, what was going on, remembering everything in the night. Paul ends up I can't remember who brought it up to Paul, but someone brought it up to Paul. They're like, well, were they drinking? Were they smoking or anything? And Paul's like, well, at my house, no, but I don't know if I knew that they were at a grad party before our house. So I don't know if they were drinking. I don't know if they were doing anything there. And if they were, and it came back in their toxicology reports or whatever, that him and his family could be liable because they left from his house last, that they saw the state of manner that they're, because I know that's a law in Ohio or whatever, that where if you consciously let somebody drive away drunk or high or something and they get into an accident, you and whoever owns that house can be at fault for that. So Paul being, I'll tell you now, out of all of us, Paul was like the least involved with any like smoking, with any type of that type of life, you know? So he was like tweaking. He was like, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. So his parents were gone that night. So his parents ended up coming back early and they ended up going to talk to the police. Well, he had his interview scheduled. I don't know the exact dates, but he had his scheduled. Rosie was supposed to do hers the next day. The other girl there that night was supposed to do hers the day after that. And I can't remember if I scheduled mine afterwards or not. I can't remember if I scheduled mine afterwards or if I even scheduled one at all. I can't remember because I don't ever remember like talking to them, but about like scheduling it that early on in the investigation, you know. And so Paul goes in there, does his investigation, and we get it. He gets out, and we're all like, "So what's the word? Like, what are they saying? What's going on? What things are they asking you? You know?" And he goes, "It's bad." He goes, they're asking about where Dom gets his drugs from. They told my parents that there's a gun buried in the yard and that if there's a gun to call them. And we're like, what the fuck? We're like, holy shit. And like, there's only ever been one time where I've ever been around Dom with guns. And it was the time where all them carnival pictures of us at the carnival, like the one that like of all of us sitting in that little bowl thing, that was at the carnival. That was on one of them little rides that you sit in and it spins a bunch. So it was in one of those rides that we took that picture. And so that night, that was a different carnival because that was the Middleburg carnival. This one was the Strongsville carnival. Once we came back from the Strongsville carnival, he had ended up keeping his guns in my room because he would drive around with his guns. He didn't want to go to the carnival that was right next to the police station with the guns on him. So he ended up keeping them in a DoorDash bag in my bedroom. And so that was the only time I ever like really been around Dom with guns. But that night specifically, there was no guns involved. I didn't see, he didn't bring them in. He didn't bring in like from my knowledge, he usually kept them in a DoorDash bag, like in the trunk of the car. It was in like one of them DoorDash fucking cooler bags. But, so that specific night, there was never any guns involved. And so when we heard about that, like being young 18, 17-year-old kids and knowing that this kid is a big time drug dealer and not really caring, you know, because it didn't really like affect our lives. He didn't really talk about it much. Like it was more his other friends and his older friends that were involved in that type of stuff. He didn't really talk about that stuff with us. And so when we heard about this, we're like, man, we don't have any information for them that's to that topic of his life. And so that was really why me, Rosie, and the other girl that night ended up canceling our interviews, because we're like, well, if that's what they're asking about, we don't know nothing about that. We also asked like legal counsel about it, and they're like, don't talk. It's obviously deeper than what you guys know. And they'll come to their terms of their investigation whenever they come to it. Like us talking about that information, not knowing anything about it won't help them or not, you know? And so that's why we at first hesitated to talk. And so where that whole gun thing comes from, now that we've looked over all the case files, is I guess they found a full box of ammo under the seat. And I guess that's the quote unquote credible information to let them know that there was a gun involved. I don't really know how that lets them know that there was a gun involved. Like, okay, a box of ammunition was found. Okay.
They just assumed off the ammunition in the car.
Yeah. Like I don't know how that tells you that there was definitely a gun involved and that you should be asking about it, you know? Yeah. But so that's where that whole thing comes from. But then once they kind of built their investigation and we got the phone call and we heard that they were saying that Mackenzie did this on purpose, that's when I went out and had my interview with police. And then Rosie, we're working on it now, but she had a full hour and a half interview with the prosecutor, not the police, with the prosecutor himself on the phone. Right?
Yeah,
yes, on the phone.
Actually went there. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and there's multiple layers of proof to prove that, but people are just gonna have to wait for that to come out. So, but yeah, so I don't really know. I don't know why. Like, I think in my opinion that was a shitty detective work. Like, just off the rip, like the first kid you talk to off the rip, you know. And like they were also asking him about like, well, was Dom ever and that's another thing too. They're asking like if Dom was jealous of Kenzie and Paul's relationship. And I'm like, well, why are
Paul gay, right?
Yes. I'm like, why are we focusing on like how Dom's feeling though? Like I'm confused. I mean, I guess it could play in a part of if they got into a fight. But yeah, then Paul was like, no, I'm gay. Like I don't rock that way, you know? And I want to address that other thing too, because I saw one video of a phone call between Rosie and Mackenzie where they're talking about that Houston kid and they're making gay remarks and whatnot. And what that really comes from is because like a lot of people don't know the personal like encounters and the personal stories behind all of this. And when it comes to that kid in this case, like both Dom and Davion hated that kid, did not like him multiple times. And actually in that phone call, when Rosie says the word gay and she says that, she's actually reiterating what Dom told to me and her in the car about him. It wasn't like she was just saying that about a thin air and that's her opinion. No, that was what Dom told us. Dom told us dirt on Tyler Proctor, the kid that said that, she did voodoo. He told us dirt on Houston. Like, so both them kids right there, Houston and Tyler Proctor, Dom and Davion, well, I won't say Davion for Tyler, but Dom himself did not like Tyler Proctor and did not like that Houston kid. He just simply didn't. They weren't friends. I know I talk a little bit about Houston in my police interview with Davion and how we got him fired from multiple jobs and stuff. Like I remember I talked to the police about that. So like, that's why it was kind of weird to me that Houston was the one going in and saying all this crazy stuff and saying that they were off of psychedelics or they were doing this or they were fighting. Like, dog, we don't like you, bro. Like we don't like you.
We weren't even there. How would they know?
Yeah,
Type of thing.
yeah. Like it's like we don't like you. We weren't talking to you to the night of. We probably weren't talking to you even the week of. So like I don't understand how. Like the only credible, useful information them kids had were the Life 360. Was the Life 360 information? That was the only useful thing. Everything else they went in there and said was all misinformation or like mistranscribed information that they've heard through the
Well, that's what I'm saying.
grapevine.
They went in there with a full blown story ready to go, and
Yeah,
then
nah.
the app to show.
No, it's it's bullshit. I think that because at the end of the day, like that whole group, like Hoosney, like he's best friends with Tyler Proctor. Tyler Proctor's best friends with Blair. Blair's best friends with all. Like they're all best friends. All those kids are all one big close ass friend group, and they all kind of went in there knowing what they wanted to say, and I feel like it all stemmed from one individual. I don't know who, but it all definitely stemmed. And like another thing that I find weird too is that like when Tyler Proctor went in his interview, he was like, "I'm related to Dom by God." Like that's weird. Like that's very. I don't know if anyone caught on that. That's very weird.
Yeah.
Like why? I don't know. Like it's just very weird. And another thing too is like they say, "Oh, that's Kenzie's ex-boyfriend." They dated for a week. And then they broke up. That was it. They weren't like a couple month thing. They were a very 1 week and then it didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's wild how they just walked in there with this story. And it was really soon. What was it, the next day?
yeah,
How
like
long after?
yeah, it was. I think it was. I remember because it was definitely before I went to college. I remember because it was when they first passed, where they crashed at. We had a vigil there. We had like a bunch of flowers and pictures and candles up right there at the side at the grass at the end, like right where the road's at. And for like I would say 2 weeks solid. I know I would say 2 weeks solid for everyone in Strong. So for me personally, it was probably only a week until I went to college. It was all the way up until I went to college. We would sit there like all night, every night. There'd be a group of like 20, 30 kids all there talking, sharing stories and whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, they were all trying to ask us like if they were fighting in this, and we're like, nah, like there was never any fights. And that's what blows my mind is that like everyone that was there that night said they weren't fighting. That saw them 4 minutes before they died. All of them said it was perfectly fine vibes. The girl before the grad party, I don't know what her name is, but that girl, she said no, there was no fights. There was no things that she could bring up to where it would show that they were fighting. There's videos of them at the zoo before that where you can hear in the background Kenzie and Dom, you can hear Dave, you can hear them all being happy and whatnot. So like everything of that day, that physical day, and the witnesses that saw them, and mind you, the key word here is witnesses. The witnesses that saw them that day all said they weren't fighting. But then if you go look at the PowerPoint that the prosecution used to build this narrative and to build this case, they give a proper thank you to Husni Ahmad, Tyler Croy, Tyler Proctor's mother, and then Davion's sister. I'm like, you just listed off 4 people that we've never hung out with that whole summer. Those 3 months, 4 months leading up to that, never seen them, has never hung out with them, never had nothing with them. They don't know shit about shit, but those, I guess, are the main witnesses that are creating this narrative and that gave them the tips and the information for them to build their case. And I just find that really weird.
They got the information, not the people who were with them that night.
Yeah, no, not the people that, not any of the information, not any of the people that saw them that day, that night. Nope, they didn't use any of that information. They thought we had something to hide. They thought we were lying. Like, I remember when she got sentenced, the prosecutor, like afterwards, the prosecutor had a video and he goes, "That Landon Turner kid's suspicious. I think he's hiding something." Well, what the hell do you think I'm hiding? And it's crazy because I think that they made all of this knowing Dom's nature. Knowing Dom's character, who he was, and that I was one of the only like straight males, I guess. I don't really know if that makes a difference or not, but I was really only the only male there. that could have like known what was going on with Dom, or that could be involved with Dom, or could be involved that. So I think they were just trying to knock me in that sense because I was simply just there and I was around Dominic Russo, you know? And like I said,
Right.
like none of us were like Dom had his own battles. He was a lot deeper in a hole. You know what I mean? He was doing a lot more things and experimenting with a lot more things than all of us were at that time, you know? And I feel like the
Well,
police knew that too. I feel like the police knew that. And so they automatically took that image and placed it on us since we were there that night, you know?
you know, wasn't there were more people than that were interviewed at that party, right? Who's Nina? Was she
So
at that party?
yeah, so Paul ended up getting interviewed. You know that.
Yeah.
Nina was there.
Was
And
never questioned.
yeah, so she was on the same type of time we were on. We heard about this drugs and these guns, and we all canceled our interviews. And after we all canceled our interviews, the police really only pushed for me and Rosie. They never really pushed or reached out too crazily to her to talk. And that's really why I guess she didn't end up talking, is because they never really pushed for those interviews, you know?
Yeah.
Like they were like, I know Rosie, they had the police call her. She denied talking with police because of the way the investigation was going. And then they tried, and I was in my job. I'm next to her this whole time. I'm doing the same thing. We're hand in hand going together, you know. And next thing you know, she has the DEA calling her phone, and I had the DEA hitting up my college saying that I'm involved in a drug trafficking case and that I could be
wow.
a suspect and not a victim. And so that even further proved us, okay, let's not talk. We're not talking. And then out the blue, literally out the blue, we hear that they're thinking of charging her with murder and thinking that she did this on purpose. And so that's when we kind of like were like, okay. And that's when I called the detective and I was like, okay, come down to Marietta. I'll have an interview with you, however long you want. And then when I went down and had that interview, I would say that was in October. When did she get charged? November. Did she get charged in November?
Yeah.
So anytime between October and November is when, like, I would say 2 weeks or a week before she was prosecuted in court is when Rosie had her phone call with the prosecutor. Because if I remember correctly, when we were on the phone, he was like talking about the question he'd ask her in court. He was asking her about some of the drug stuff. He was asking her just little bits of information, not really a full in-depth explanation of the whole night, but he was asking her pretty decent questions. And he ended up at the end of the phone call being like, okay, I'll give you a call in a week. And that's when we'll have you come in and testify for court. So yeah, that's about approximately when Rosie ended up talking to the prosecutor, was I would say a week or two before court. Because her and the lawyer, him and the lawyer, the prosecutor and the lawyer, both were saying that they were going to subpoena Rosie to court, but they never subpoenaed her. And then when we were in the juvenile court in the binding over process, her lawyer literally looks at Rose and he goes, they're going to try and charge you for drug trafficking. I'm not having you testify in court. So literally what he told Rosie. And so she just never went to court, never testified, never talked. And that was based off of legal counsel and also based off of, the fact that they just didn't call her in. They didn't subpoena her. You know, they really thought that she held the key and Rosie Graham knew what was going through Mackenzie Shrilla's mind at that moment in time and at that night. I think they would have grand jury subpoenaed her, but they didn't, because when she did have the phone call with the prosecutor, everything the prosecutor was saying, Rosie was denying and saying, no, that's not true. That's not how that was. It's not like that. Doesn't make sense. Every time he would refer it to as a homicide investigation, she'd refer it to as an accident, and it would just tick him off, you know, and stuff like that. So, it was obvious that the information we held was no use in their investigation and their narrative. And that's really the reason why the whole public thinks that we didn't talk and that we didn't cooperate. But in reality, we did, you know?
So do you think that it sounds to me like these people were going to get a conviction regardless of who it was or what it was for.
Yeah,
Like
I
they were
do think that
looking
I
into
know
drug
Dom.
trafficking, then it became murder with the accident. I just feel like they were searching for something.
Yeah, I think that they were definitely trying to fulfill a certain level or a certain degree of charges, of how, like, I don't know if murder stands the same as, mass drug trafficking and mass gun trafficking. I don't know if that carries the same weight, but I will say, like, and I'll put allegedly around this. Allegedly, I know he was I know Dom was under investigation for the girl falling down the stairs. I know he
Right.
was under investigation for that. And there are text messages where a girl who witnessed her fall down the stairs said she blacked out and fell down the stairs. That nobody pushed her. There was no malice towards that. If there was, I would say there was 120 people there that night. Somebody would have seen somebody push somebody down the stairs, and they would have told the police. That simple. So no one and no certain individual pushed her down the stairs. But I know he was under investigation from that. And this is where I really, really emphasize the allegedliness. I do feel as if he was under investigation for drugs and guns at that time as well. Like we had heard things about
I
that,
heard
that,
that
that,
too. Mhm.
that he had a warrant out or something that morning for his arrest because he failed to appear to court or something like that. I'm not exactly sure on that nature, but that was what was being said at the time of the accident.
So there was, I heard about the investigation. I never spoke on it because, I didn't have much to go on. But yeah, I heard about this possible drug investigation going on. And yeah, it looked,
Yeah.
wow.
I know cops are sitting outside of his house all the time. I know that a week prior to the incident, when Davion was already living with them, Davion and Dom actually got pulled over and the car got searched and they broke a couple plastic like trim that you could pop off because they thought they were hiding stuff in the trim. So they strip searched Dom's whole Cadillac. He owned a Cadillac at the time. They strip searched the whole thing, and that was like a week or two prior, I would say, to the accident happening. I wonder if there's any police report or police thing about that or not. I don't know if they report those type of things or document those type of things if they don't find anything, because they didn't find anything. No arrests were made, nothing of those sorts. It was just a simple search.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, the police knew. Everyone knew. Everyone in the town knew what was going on. The
So I
fact
feel
that
like
the fa-
that could also
it's
be why Christine would push for the murder charge
yeah,
as well.
yeah. I would assume too. Like, and this is just smart. Like, I guess words of wisdom to people, certain individuals, and like it's plain as day that Dom did what he did. So instead of like saying people are liars, just
Hmm.
simply say you don't want to talk about it. Like that's so much better. Just simply say I'd
Yeah.
rather not speak on it, and don't sit here and try to call people liars about it, because then now you're discrediting certain people publicly, and now it's going to get to the point where they're going to have to come out with evidence to show what they're saying is correct. And at the end of the day, nobody wants that. We don't want that. I know the families don't want that. So like, it's just simple. Like, just stop calling certain people liars, because it's not helping the case whatsoever.
It's not at all. And listen, regardless of what he did or he's dead, right? He deserves justice to some extent, right? As long as
Hmm.
it's not justice. Nobody wants to see him dead. People should be able to grieve and mourn. Nobody's life is worth any more than anybody else's. But again, if you're going to tell a story and push a narrative on people and tell what you believe to be other people's truths, then everyone has to understand that everything about everybody's going to start to come out, right?
Yep.
And if you're lying and you're hiding stuff and you're not being honest, like people are quick to be honest and talk about Mackenzie, but not so honest to talk about everyone else. Again, everyone's life is equal. So we're not going to sit there and act like, he did this, so his life wasn't worth it, because absolutely not at all. But you do have to be honest on who these people are and to show that there's more of a story, and don't sit there and act like, he was this great, everyone was cookie cut her clean, and you know what I mean? This woman is this horrible girl who murdered them, but look at these perfect people. No, they weren't. They all had past, they all had issues. It was real life. And so just like Mackenzie had real life issues, so did everybody. And again, to sit there and act like that doesn't exist while you're blaming this girl on intentional murder is wild. And like you said, things are going to start coming out then that you don't want to come out. So you might as well just acknowledge who he really was, right? Like acknowledge who he really was and not who you would have wanted him to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I agree. Like, no matter what somebody does. Now, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't say no matter what, because there are certain degrees to where if someone does something that could really make them look bad, you know, and change some people's opinions. But like, to what he was doing, it should have no reflection on if he was rightfully, like, you know what I mean, supposed to be alive or not. Like, it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it. the main, all of them. Like, all three kids that were involved in this situation, anything that happened to them, they did not deserve it whatsoever. No matter what they did in their life, no matter what they did behind the scenes that nobody talks about, that nobody knows, that I don't know. You know, it does not matter. It does not matter. It does not justify anything. But what I say is that should be the main point of focus here, is that we have a narrative being pushed that she was some drug addict, right? And then we also have this whole fact that she got charged with criminal tools and charged with drug possession in the car. And it's like, I'm sorry, like, there's explanations to that. Like, when there is heavy drugs in the car, it can range from mushrooms all the way up to pills, all the way up to whatever you want to call it, man. If they were driving around, Dom would have Mackenzie put it on her because she's a minor, and they won't strip search her. They won't search her person. They won't search her clothes.
I mean, that she's a female, and a female can say they don't want to be searched by a male.
Exactly.
They want to becomes
exactly. It brings up so many different problems. So it's like, there's explanations to that, and the people involved, including me, including Rosie, including the others, all know that. They all know that, and they just don't want to publicly say it. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, I respect it to a certain extent, but once you start trying to create other problems, like calling people a liar and doing stuff like that, and it's not like this is on some small local scale stuff. No, this is on a global scale. You know, you are globally attacking people, and that's not right. It's just not right. Like, if you want to put a certain image of somebody out there, then just simply deny talking about any type of thing that has to do with that. Don't sit here and try to add on to it and say that people are lying or that people are doing this, because then now they go and they run back to the people that said it, and they're like, well, you're a liar. You're a liar. How are we going to believe you? You know, and that's another main reason why neither me nor Rosie have publicly spoke out, is because if we do, it's probably going to be filled with a bunch of counts. You're a liar. You're a liar. And then you'll have those 20 to 50 to 100 conscious people where they're like, okay, I see what you're saying. You know, like, so it's not worth adding fuel to the fire at this point. You know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So She-Shed, did you have some questions? I'm sorry, Landon. I feel like I've been talking your ear off, but I know, I just wanted to make sure.
No, I'm just really glad to hear all of this. I'm kind of new to it, so this is like a lot of information, and yeah, it's.
I mean, shit. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Let me see if I can put my camera on.
One thing that I did want to know, because I keep hearing that somebody else was at the scene, and I would like to know who was the first at the scene of the accident.
Hold on. Let me see this. Let me try to do this real quick. See that? That right there is, no one else owns a jersey like this. Davion was buried in one of them, and the other one is framed at the high school. So the fact that people try to sit here and say that I'm not friends with this boy is disgusting. We got this. I got this picture of him. We got these personal drawings made. We got so much stuff lying around the house, man, that it's just like, nah, you know, it's bullshit.
Yeah. I see, again, people do things, they just want to, that's hurtful.
Yeah,
That's
it is. I mean,
hurtful.
I'm good at taking certain things a certain way, and obviously, like the media and the mass attention doesn't really bother me. But coming from a more personal standpoint on everything, it hurts me to see certain individuals coming out here and trying to say that I'm not these boys' friends. You know,
Yeah.
and that I'm only Mackenzie's friend, and that I'm Mackenzie's minion, or that I'm like no, that's not the case. And it's crazy because I thought the documentary would have kept this in, but they didn't. And one of the first things that I said to them, and that I tell everybody, is that Mackenzie is not my friend. And this might sound like over the top and over like bad, but just hear me out. If she were to get 30 years or no parole, nothing, if she would have gotten nothing, or if she would have unfortunately lost her life in that accident, it would not make a difference to me. It would not make a difference to my feelings, to my emotions on this situation, because at the end of the day, I lost my two friends. I lost a brother, you know what I mean? I lost someone that was like very close in my life. But at the end of the day, I still stand 10 toes down. I still stand so strong on the fact that they didn't get into a fight that morning and she just purposely wanted to murder them. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a heartbeat. I won't believe it ever. There's
Now
no,
that you said that, you've also never seen her just spaz out for no reason, or you have?
no, never. I've
Because I
never,
know that's another one.
no,
She just snaps.
no, I've never seen her spaz out or just snap. I know like there was one time, I think it was when we were in OU after the accident. She had given me an attitude about how I had said something to Rosie. And me just being a man and it being my relationship, you know, I felt some type of way. I was like, well, how the fuck are you about to tell me how to feel in my relationship? You know, like that was the only ever time where I like was like, man, watch how you talk to me, you know, like in a way. But it wasn't like she was aggressive or she snapped. It was just because I said something about, like, I don't want to go too much in detail or context of what it was, but like, because it's like some personal shit with my relationship, but like
Right.
I had said something stupid basically in a way, and she tried jumping on my ass for it, and I was like, nah, like you ain't gonna jump on my ass for that, you know what I mean? It's the only time that I've ever experienced any form of something other than, I guess, like happiness in a way, happiness or just enjoying being there, you know? There's never, like, I've been to her house with Dom and Kenzie. I've been to Dom's house with Dom and Kenzie. Never once have I ever seen them snap on each other or them do something or act a certain way towards each other, you know? I've been in the car with them. I've been out in public with them. Never.
Now, she had asked, and I know you spoke about Rosie being at the car. Can you go through that one more time for her? Because I know the first person that reported the accident was the guy passing a passerby on a motorcycle, and he reported that he saw a car into the building, right? That was the initial report of the accident. And then and again, this is big going around. I don't believe it, however, that Rosie was at the car. So can you talk about that just one more time? Because I know she was
Yeah.
for that.
Well, and the reason I was asking, because I know if you have an iPhone, like my daughter was in a crash a couple of weeks ago and it immediately notified me. So like I was there before anybody else. I mean, like her entire family showed up.
Yeah. So, hey, I'll explain all the way from the beginning. So that leading up to that day, me and Rosie were in the Outer Banks. We were in the Outer Banks for a week with my family. I have pictures of us, but we were in the Outer Banks for that whole week prior. Literally, even that day, like that day of the accident, like that night, I guess, that full day we spent driving back from the Outer Banks. So we were at the Outer Banks on vacation, and once we started getting closer towards home, Rosie's like, oh, Paul's parents are home. Like, should we go over to Paul's house and have everybody over there and hang out and whatnot and potentially, you know, trip and do this? And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. That sounds fun. Whatever. So she ends up texting Kenzie and they end up making plans. And so we get home and we drop the luggage off at the house. Rosie ends up going home to her house to drop her luggage off. And now I'm at my house, right? So I get in my truck and we meet at Paul's house. Well, I guess at some point over text message or whatever, Kenzie and Rosie were talking about not taking mushrooms. And by the time like we got there, it was 10 o'clock. And so then we chilled for about an hour and a half. And Kenzie and Dom arrived Kenzie, Dom, and Dave arrived between 11 and 12. And when they got there, they were kind of like, oh, I feel like it's kind of too late. Like it's 12 o'clock at night already. I don't think we should take these. Like usually when we take them, because like I said, we've taken shrooms with them a handful of times prior to that. And there were always more of like, we took them at 6, 7 o'clock and then, everything was said and done by 2 a.m., But at the fact that it was 12 o'clock at this point, we're like, we don't know. We don't want to take them. And then I know Kenzie and Dom, like they were on their like little health grind and eating healthy. That's where that whole McChicken thing from the documentary comes. They just clipped that. But the full explanation of the whole McChicken thing is that like they eat healthy, and that like the fact that they eat healthy, they wouldn't do this. She wouldn't go out of her way and harm her body like this. But that's a whole different topic. But so they were on like their health grind, and they wouldn't eat, they wouldn't eat just potato chips and shitty snacks that we would have. They would eat their own snacks. They'd eat healthy. They'd eat non-GMO chips, non-GMO popcorn. And so they end up forgetting all of their snacks. And when they first got there, they were there for about 10, 15 minutes. And then Kenzie was like, oh, fuck, I forgot the popcorn. I forgot our snacks. And they were kind of like on the fence about going back for it. And then Kenzie talked Dom into doing it. So they ended up going back, grabbing the snacks. She ended up coming back with a big bowl of popcorn. I know they had a pack of blueberries, which the crazy story about this is I found the package of those blueberries at the accident scene after they had cleared the car out. That was like some of the scraps they left around was part of the blueberry packaging. But so they ended up going back for their snacks, just her and Dom, and then coming back. And at that point, I would say it was about 12:30. And we ended up, the girls ended up doing their thing on the floor, coloring in coloring books. And me, Dave, and Dom were chilling on the couch watching shit. The girls ended up at one point going back into the back room at the night and watching High School Musical, while me, Dave, and Dom still stayed up front. I think actually when they went back to watch High School Musical, I think that's when Kenzie came back up and was like, I'm going to go to sleep. She ended up sleeping, and it was just Rosie and Nina in the back watching High School Musical. And that was like the rest of the night, all the way up until they left, was just them in the back room, them two girls in the back room, and us four up front with Kenzie sleeping. And so I end up getting up at like right before they leave. I end up getting up to go check on Rosie, see what she's doing, see if she's asleep or whatnot. And I peek my head around the corner. I don't see no movement. I don't see no commotion. I see the TV going. So I turn back. And once I turn back, that's when Dom and all them, Dom was waking Kenzie up to get up, and they were getting up. And I dabbed Dom up, said peace, and then Davion came up to me, gave me the hug, said, "Man, I love you." We talked about him coming home with me. He ended up opting out to go back home and shower and sleep. And then we watched them get in the car, leave. And so after that, I ended up going back into the back room with Rosie, where Rosie and Nina were, and we were contemplating if we should try falling asleep there. And I was pretty awake. I know she was kind of tired, but I know I was pretty awake. So I tried laying down for about 10 minutes. Couldn't sleep. Ended up being like, okay, let's get up. So we got up and we ended up leaving. Well, me and Rosie drove separately because we drove separately there. And we took, so if you're familiar with Strongsville, there's two main roads that connects the southern side of Strongsville to the northern side of Strongsville. It's Pearl Road and West 130th.
Pearl Road a lot,
Yep.
yeah.
Pearl Road and West 130th. Pearl Road is like that side of town. West 130th is like from east to west, is on the other side of town, and then runs north to south, So those are the two roads. So we ended up taking West 130th home that morning. And I think in my police interview, I talk about how it was weird because I never really take West 130th home. And it was just weird that I did that morning. Like, I was like one of those weird coincidences where, like, I don't know, like, you wouldn't have been able to see the crash driving down Pearl, but like, you would have just been, maybe, I don't know, like maybe I felt something if I drove closer to it. I don't know. I always just think about that. And that's why I think it's a weird coincidence. But so we ended up driving down West 130th and we got to my house. And while we were on vacation, my sister ended up getting COVID. And my mom, who has the most shittiest immune system I've ever met in my life, she ended up getting it. So my mom got it, my cousin that was there got it, and my sister got it. So when we got back to the house, we remembered that my mom had COVID. And we were kind of out there like, Rose like, I don't know if I really want to go inside. Like, I might run the risk of getting COVID. And I was like, well, you can just chill in my room the whole time. I just quarantine basically in my room. My room's safe. She's like, yeah. She goes, no, I'll just go home. I don't want to run the risk. I was like, okay. So she ended up getting in her car and she took Pearl home instead of West 130th. So she drove down Pearl Road, which goes right past Progress Drive. It's just you can't see the other side of Progress Drive from Pearl. It's a long road and it's a windy road. So you just can't see. It's not like she drove past and saw a car crash into a building at the end of the road. No, she didn't see nothing. I don't even think she probably glanced down the road. The whole reason why that
It was in the back off the road too.
yeah, and the whole reason why that this whole story was even a story and got miscommunicated in the first place is because that morning when she was driving home at like, I would say at this point it was like 6 a.m. after all this shit after us contemplating on going home at Paul's and then contemplating her coming into the house. She was probably driving home about 6 a.m. So the sun was rising, everything was going, it was bright outside. And she remembers seeing the beautiful sunset and just thinking about how, you know, she has all these memories in this city and she's about to go to college and move on with her life on the next big step of her life. And not only is she leaving her family behind, but she's leaving behind partially like this group of 6 solid people, you know, me, her, Nina, Paul, Davion, Kenzie, Dom. Like we're leaving behind this solid ass group that we've been hanging out for the last 3 months, you know, 3 months of the whole summer. It's been a solid, probably one of the most funnest solid summers we've ever had in our life. And she was just sitting there having like a wholesome moment about it. And then like coincidentally not knowing at the time that they had passed away, you know what I mean? At that exact moment, they were sitting in that car, you know? And so like afterwards, after obviously finding out about this and whatnot, that was like a story she would tell people is that like, it's just crazy, like the parallel, you know, where it's just like she was feeling those type of emotions going down Pearl and like not knowing that had just happened, you know? And one of those kids that was around to hear that story is who went into the police station and like mistranscribed it or miscommunicated it in a way of, oh, she drove right past the accident but didn't call the police. No, she didn't drive right past the accident. She drove 0.7 miles away from the accident. But that's that's where that whole story comes from, basically.
Yeah.
Neither of us owned Life 360. If there was a car that stopped there, or if Rosie's car did go by, which the police would know which car Rosie drives, and they would see that car on camera, and they didn't, obviously. And not only that, like even to this day, I would let the police take my phone and see if I've ever had Life 360 installed, and I haven't. I just simply haven't. That's not an app that I use. I use Find My iPhone rather than the Life 360.
But do you know who the first on the scene was?
So I don't know like personally at all. Like I don't know who it was, but I did after the Netflix documentary came out, I saw in one of the Facebook, like on the Strongsville Moms page, I saw in the Facebook comments someone that knew the person that found them. And I guess he was some like older man that drives a motorcycle, but he didn't keep his phone. He didn't keep his phone on him when he found it. So he ended up driving past it, seen it, but then had to go all the way back home and then call police before he couldn't just call him right away. He ended up having to go back home and call him. And they had said in the comments that as of now, he has passed on. So I don't really know too much about it. I don't know anything about him, I guess, you know?
Okay, because I was just curious if one of the parents would have got an alert.
Yeah, I would assume the Life 360 would have given an alert, but it didn't. It didn't give an alert of a crash. It usually it does, and that's another thing too. I'd like to I guess throw out there about Life 360, which is wild because I did see like a lot of inconsistencies with the Life 360, and what I mean by that is
when they first, like when Houston and all them kids that were on that were going around showing everyone, like it was glitching out and like not giving the proper route that they took. It was like showing that they drove through woods and they did a bunch of crazy shit, like routes that you just physically couldn't drive through, you know? And I don't know how, like, I don't know why that was like that, but then that prompted me to look up, and legally, like, you're not allowed to use anything off a Life 360 in court. That's not legal. It's not for legal uses. So like the fact that they push so hard, oh, the Life 360 shows this, is like, but you can't, like, it's really like not accurate information. It's not the most accurate factual information in my opinion. But I mean, yeah, obviously does it. Yeah, does it give a story of what speed they were going? Yeah, you know what I mean? But the fact that it didn't notify anybody that there was a crash or any of those sorts questions me, because I mean, I think that somebody probably would have been able to get there quicker if it didn't notify them, because like you said and like we said, Davion was texting one of those kids that was in the Life 360. He was in that Life 360 group. He was texting him a minute before they died. So it's like they probably, like, those kids were up and relevant. They probably would have saw the notification go through on their phone. Hey, there's been an accident reported, you know, at 90 miles per hour, sudden impact, sudden stop. Like it's usually what Life 360 tells you, but it didn't tell them in that case.
Yeah, I did notice that. So Nene, you can request to come on, guys. Nene's in the chat. She's the one whose video I told you that I reacted to. And yeah, come on up, because you had a lot of good information and I appreciate those videos. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? So I reacted to your video today and I appreciated your explanation.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say first, I am not an expert or anything. However, I started seeing some inconsistencies with what Tim Troop was presenting compared to what was actually in the EDR file itself, the crash instruction report. And then there is Amanda, the EDR analyst on here. Mm-hmm. So if you remove her tone, that she obviously thinks that Mackenzie did this on purpose, removing that and just listening to what she has to say, and in her comment section, I got, she confirmed that yes, that hard turn is more than likely part of one turn sequence. Like, she was already trying to turn, and then if you look in the original report, like the police report, it shows the tire marks far before what it shows in the grand jury presentation. Like, it shows her trying, like, she's going towards the left and something happened where she veered towards the right, hit that curb. After that curb, the airbags were deployed. Nothing could be stopped from there. So them saying that she intentionally aimed for that, the EDR doesn't show that. The EDR shows from airbag deployment until the last thing that was recorded, not the wall hit. From airbag deployment to the wall hit is like 1/1000. That's it. That's as quick as that happened. And she's already over the gears. Obviously, that's why it's showing this. And Toyota specifically says not to pay attention to the time frame. That all of these sensors you're seeing, the yaw, the steering, the brake pressure, the acceleration, those are all separate sensors recording simultaneously at one time. And so they're just separating it.
I will say this too. Another thing that now I haven't refreshened up on the EDR data itself. I will say, from when I originally was like I've always been invested in this case, but when it was really like, the information, we were really diving deep in the information and the facts. What I gained from it is, so tell me if I'm wrong, at 4.7 seconds when the EDR started recording, is that when the car detected a rollover event and that's when the airbags deployed?
So the TRG5 is where the airbags were deployed, and that is where the hard steering happened.
Is that when the
That is
EDR
not
turns on? When did the EDR start recording? What caused the EDR to start recording? Because what I
a
heard is
rollover event, and the
the
rollover event
rollover.
was more than likely the 46.6 degree angle the car went on when it is going up on that curb, because you're from that area, so you know that's not just a curb that is like a straight angle.
No,
It's a
no.
curb
Here,
that's going from the road up.
Let me explain my I guess theory or what I've gained from it. So, all right. So at 4.7 seconds is when the EDR turns on, and it
No,
records a
that's the last
rollover.
event that it recorded.
All right. So, but at 4.7 is when it recorded a rollover, and that's what they
No.
said. You said no?
Yes, 4.7 seconds before
Impact. Yes, before
the,
impact, right?
not before the impact. So, you know, after the impact, where you see all those invalid, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So, you see where all those invalid is at the very bottom?
Yeah.
All right. So, we're looking at 18. Okay. The bottom one, if you look at table 2, that is the very last thing that the car recorded. Okay? Now, when you see that the car hits the wall and then it goes to its final resting position, when it's in that final resting position is where this invalid is. Now you see the 168 degree turn and the 171 degree
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
All right, can you go up where it shows on table 1 the RPMs? All right, do you know anything right there. Do you know anything about vehicles or anything?
I mean, I know a decent bit. I work on them and fix on
All
them,
right.
but not to the craziest extent.
No, I don't. You don't have to. But if you're pressing the gas 100% and you're in park, what are your RPMs doing?
To the max. They're going up.
They're going up. So you
Yeah.
see where her RPMs, she's on the road. Then you see where it jumps up to almost at 6,900, 6,500. She's going airborne there. There's no traction on.
Yeah.
And
That
also, if
makes
you
sense.
go over the throttle, look at the throttle. That is nowhere near even halfway open right there.
Yeah.
And
I
then
thought
where
that
she
was
hits the
weird too. The
wall,
13 and 23.
where she hits the wall, right there where it says RPM 6,700, that gas is still going straight forward, or all the way down, but the car's not going anywhere. And then that's where it flips over and it's at its final resting point. So where you see the TRG5 would be, can you go out just a little bit? All right, on table 2, where you see the brake pressure.
Right here.
That is right above that, but not where you see it on this table. Right between those seconds, that is where the airbags were deployed.
All right.
But you can't look at the seconds. You can't look at the seconds, though. That's what I'm saying. That's not accurate. And it says it in this report that time is not accurate. This is all happening together.
All right, because how I originally looked at it, because obviously I didn't go too crazily deep on the table and the EDR. I just went off of what I was heard in court or what I was told, and what I had came up with was, so from the point of impact, if they're going 100 miles per hour, and I know it drops down to 88.6 or whatever at the last recorded speed or whatever. But if you take the average of 190 miles per hour and you put that in, how far do you travel for 4.7 seconds at that speed? You travel 230 yards. It's 2 football fields length of distance, right?
260 feet.
So at
Not
4.7 seconds, 1 second at 100 miles per hour, you're moving 140 feet per second. So take that 140 feet and times it by 4.7, you get 600 and something 80 feet. That translated into yards is about 230 yards. So I went on Google Map or Google Earth and I put in 680 feet away from the impact point. And right there, right exactly at 4.7 seconds where that
where that distance is, there used to be this humongous like divot in the road. Like I'm talking, me and Rosie drove down that road at 50 miles per hour and we went airborne. Like this divot was huge. It was a huge like random just bump in the road, like just a random bump that formed there over the years of the road. And they actually, when the accident happened, before the judge could go drive down the road, they went through and they replaced that whole section of road. They removed that whole section of road where that bump was. But like now knowing this information, I look differently at it, but I just thought at the time it was weird that those distances matched up to a T, like to a T, where it says that this airbag or this rollover event occurred to where how far it was on maps. It was exactly where it was said it was supposed to be. And then I did another test where I drove the road at 25 miles per hour, and I was like, so right where that divot was, I was like, I was at 25 miles per hour and I drove all the way down to the end of the road where they crashed at. And I kept in mind the little 20 yards, 30 yards of grass up to the building. And that math even came out to be the exact same distance that they say that this whole airbag rollover event went off on. So I was believed that the rollover event wasn't caused from a curb. It was caused from that divot in the road. But now after you guys have explained it to me, you know what I mean? I've understood it a little bit more.
Yeah, the rollover event, actually, the car felt like it was rolling over, and it was at a 46.6 degree angle. That's more than half of 90 degrees. That's more than, like, the car literally thought it was flipping.
Yeah.
That's why the airbags came out.
Yep.
And you know what? Listen, in these case files, if it's being read, Tim Troop knew all of this. Every single thing, he knew it, and he presented it like he literally was gaslighting everybody. Yeah. Because none of this if this starts when the airbags deploy, she's already over the shifter. Like, there's nothing that they can do about it. And they already knew that she was turning left. They already knew. It's in the original report. There's a diagram. And something happened to this car. Like, they gave themselves reasonable doubt, not McKinsey.
So, Nene, let me ask you, what is your explanation? What do you think happened?
I just think exactly what the state tried to present, that she was a reckless driver. And I'm not saying that she was. I am not saying that. I'm saying based on the facts showing that she did drive 90 miles per hour plus on multiple occasions while recording herself, while like casually. She did this casually. There is evidence that shows that she was a 17-year-old misguided child who did not use her common sense. So obviously they're probably just driving like to her it's normal. And also in expert testimonies, they say that driving in the daylight, let alone dark, that tree covers the stop sign, it obscures the view of the building, so she sees it last minute and there's nothing. They say, I don't know, Landon, if you can like back this part up, but also in there, Tyler says, I don't know why Davion would be snapping with me if there was something wrong or something going on in that car.
Yeah, I agree. I totally think, and this not only even the text messages, the fact that they didn't have their seatbelts on properly tells me too that something was up, because I know damn well if she was crashing out and was screaming and wanting to crash that car, the first thing that's going through Davion, at least Davion's head, is putting his seatbelt on. As being like a third party person in there, you know, like almost like a third wheel in a way. Like, you know, maybe he doesn't know if he feels comfortable speaking on too much of their relationship. Like, I would just put my seatbelt on before I would start trying to calm the situation down. That'd be the first thing I do, is put my seatbelt on. And I feel like that's what he would do. And another thing I do want to touch back on too that you just said is I can confirm that like going down that road in complete pitch darkness, you can't see that building. Can't. Like you literally just can't.
I've seen pictures
and like,
of it. It's dark.
like yeah, like and at the at the beginning of the road, there are street lights. At the end of the road, there is no street lights. It is complete and utter darkness at the end of that road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
there's
also
something
say
else.
too, like
Like there's
the airbags deploying early, like completely discredits the fact that she precisely put that car in the corner of the building. You know.
Yeah, the steering literally jumps from where you see she's going left. It's like 7 degrees left, 9 degrees left, 4 degrees left, and then it jumps from 4 degrees left to 25 degrees right. And then so that's a significant turn. It's 4.5 to negative 25.5, I think. That's a 30-degree jump.
Yeah.
Plus, and then it goes from negative 25.5 to negative 88. That's even more. Even like
Yeah.
them saying that it was a hard turn that caused the airbags. No, the airbags and that hard 142-degree turn happened exactly at the same time.
See,
Yeah.
this is interesting because I agree. Again, I agree with both of you. She was reckless. They were all reckless, right? Didn't Davion lose his license, or
He
didn't he?
crashed multiple cars. I know that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's being young, it's being stupid, definitely reckless, right? I absolutely agree that she should serve time in jail. I do believe that she's the reason these boys are dead because of her recklessness and her stupidity being a kid, right? And that immortality feeling that we all had when we were young.
Yep.
I really do believe that. However, I don't think anything, and especially with this drive, does it show intent to me. I don't see the intent for her to drive right into that building.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
It
and
was
that's
a
like,
reason for them to look into her past. Like now that all these extra recordings are coming out, it gave them a reason to start looking at supporting evidence
Yep.
because this
that's
EDR
also.
does not it does not prove
It does
intent.
not say
This
right.
EDR shows the crash. The EDR shows the crash. And also I want to add before I forget, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
When she's turning on to that, what is it? Progress? If you
Almeida?
slow down that, maybe, I'm sorry, it's at the light.
Yeah.
If you really slow that down and you brighten it up and add the add contrast and everything, you can see that Dominic is holding like a tablet of some sort or something, and Davion is kind of like between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. He's also got his phone right there. Like they're showing her things while she's driving fast. Also, this is not they're very casual. It looks
I'm
very
interested
casual.
on that tablet, dude, because like there was no like. So I remember
Maybe not a
seeing.
tablet. Maybe it was just
Well,
his phone
yeah, I
with
see.
the
Well, I
reflection
saw
of
that
the
light
light.
when we first saw that footage. I saw that light instantly, and I had just automatically assumed that it was Davion being on his phone since we knew Dave was on his phone. You know, I just thought it was him being on his phone. But now that like it's been blowing up and I've been seeing all these images and I've been seeing, enhanced or, whatever image it's been messed with, like it kind of really does seem like it's like a laptop or a tablet. Like, I don't know, like it doesn't seem like it's a small phone putting off a lot of light. It seems like it's a big device putting off a lot
I
of light.
mean,
And that's just not found in
when
evidence at all. That's
when you
just
mess
trips
with
me out.
yeah, it could be his laptop because I've heard a lot of people saying that. But also, when you mess with when you start enhancing it and messing with it, it also does look like it could be just like a phone blended in with the reflection of the light that's already reflecting. You
Yeah,
know?
that makes sense. No, I mean, I would assume that it's just a phone because, I mean, I think that if there was a tablet or a laptop found, that would be like taken pictures of, like how they took pictures of all the other devices found and stuff.
But even that too, the
Yeah.
being on their phones casually, they're not calling for help, right? So
Yeah.
that right there shows that they were distracted.
My
I'm sure they were
that's
talking
the
about
biggest
everything that
thing.
went on at the party, right? Oh, did you hear so and so said this? Did you see that? Why didn't we do anything? Like I'm sure they were having conversations, showing phones, totally distracted in the dark, obviously exhausted. They were at the zoo. They went to that first party. They were up that night. You know what I mean? So they had to have been tired. And again, that plays a big part in it. And we don't know about the drug situation. We don't know what they did before they even got to Paul's house, or if they even did anything at Paul's
Yeah.
house, right? You
I mean,
don't know.
even when my fucking mom found out, she found out from my head football coach, and my head football coach heard that they were on LSD. That's what they heard, and I was like, "Well, I feel like we'd be able to tell, like, if they were on a psychedelic like that. Like, if we were with them that night, I would be able to tell if they were tripping on some from a psychedelic." And to our best of capabilities, they weren't. Like, there was no clear telltale signs that that was what was happening, and like. And this is what I like to like. I tell everyone at the end of the day is that like the thing that me and Rhodes sit here and say is that no, we don't think that she should just completely be free out of jail, walking free. No, we think that this case was investigated not improper. That I just simply we don't believe that they got into a fight, and that's what caused that car to crash. There's no evidence pointing towards that. All of the evidence, all of the eyewitnesses, all of the credible evidence that does point to that points in the opposite direction. So like I just don't believe that. And like anything else that it could be other than intentional murder, and that what I mean by that is, you know, reckless driving, a medical condition, suicide, anything. I can forgive her for that. You know, I can forgive her if they were recklessly driving and that happened, because knowing them two boys, they weren't in fear. You know, they weren't sitting there
It could
freaking
have been
out, scared.
anybody. It could have
Yeah,
been anybody. I
like it
mean,
was.
and
Yeah,
Jamie in the comments, Jamie, I love you to death, man. You know I do. But you said that behavior predicts future behaviors. Well, I mean, I had my instances as a teenager where I did things that were reckless, right? But it doesn't mean as an adult we grow up to be reckless. So
yeah.
we can't just say that, you know what I mean? Like that her history of behaviors or her history or her behaviors now predicts who she's going to be or what she did. Like, you got to remember that even at 20 years old, what was Dom, 20?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's still young, still reckless, still. I absolutely believe that they were being stupid and reckless,
I was a
right? Like, their
completely
lifestyle at the time shows it.
I was a completely different person at that time. I was a completely different person in the months of going into college and experiencing college, and I'm a completely different person now. Like completely. Like my thoughts on everything and the way that I am and my emotions and the way I handled it, they're all completely different from how it was back in the day. So like, yeah, I would agree. Like it's not true that someone's actions, especially as a 17-year-old, is going to dictate what they do in the future. Now it's different, you know, if you're a 27-year-old and you do some things and you're like, and then that kind of gives some people the right maybe to say, okay, yeah, I could see you doing that 20 years down the road, you know. But when you're at a 17-year-old or any age younger than that, no, you can't take what somebody does and say, oh, that's how they're going to be in the future, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Nene, you were writing something in the chat. Did you want to say something?
Oh no, it was just on the comment on where they said past behavior predicts future behavior. It can. I just watched that same document where the psychiatrist said that. I was just
Well,
stating like it
it
can
can.
predict it obviously because she's been a reckless driver before, that can predict that she did this recklessly.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Not like the way you can't just
You're
always
talking
take
about
it
patterns of
I
behavior.
guess
negatively.
Absolutely.
I meant more towards like the
No,
maturity
not you,
levels,
not
I
you.
So
guess.
did I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
guess I
did
meant
I.
more like the maturity levels in the way that, you know, her reactions are to certain situations or the way that her and Dom fought. You know, that could definitely be grown upon and expanded on.
But if they were to present the EDR the way that it is, the experts themselves say that it is, the crash reconstruction report says, there would be no reason to look into any part of their lives at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zero at all.
Well,
I feel like they
And we
wanted
wouldn't
an
be
outcome.
discussing this, and we wouldn't be pulling apart every single one of her actions, because if this was an innocent person, everybody would be saying you can't judge somebody on how they grieve.
Dad. And you know, let's be real. And I'm not trying to, you know, she's her actions, just the way she is, her attitude, her personality. She's not really likable. For all of us who went to high school, to me, she was the mean girl, right? And it is what it is. That's what she is showing, right? I don't know her personally, and that's what we see. And I think people want to not like her. I also think that people wanted somebody to be responsible. They wanted this to be a murder. And so they pushed that narrative. And I think when people want to see something, no matter what you show them in front of their face to speak otherwise, they're going to make everything come to the conclusion that they want.
That's absolutely true. It really is. But I think a lot of these people that are doing that, they're thinking that everybody needs to let this go because obviously Dominic and Davion's family and their friends, everybody needs to heal. But healing from losing somebody from an accident and healing from somebody purposely taking them from you,
Are two different
that's a
things.
totally different process.
And I would want to heal from the truth.
Like
I
it
would want
really
the
is.
truth.
And
That's
it
how
doesn't
I feel.
matter how we see her. It doesn't matter how evil we think that she is. She still deserves the right to a fair trial, and she did not get
Yeah.
that.
That's all.
I
That's
agree.
exactly how I feel. Is that no matter what information comes out, no matter what fights, whatever level of toxicity comes out, I just want to know the truth, and I want to know the best investigated route to that accident. I don't want to know some bullshit made up story. But well, I will say this. I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna go get me some ice cream. But there is one thing I'd like to say because I heard you mention it like a little bit ago about the mean girl or she a mean girl or whatever. And I want to say this on this live because I said it on the last live is so that whole Mean Girl Murders documentary. Let me spill some tea about that. So they claim in there that her, Rosie, and Kenzie were like the Regina George and the Mean Girls, right? And they would walk down the hallways bullying people. Isn't that right? Here's what's crazy. We were all in high school at the same year, right? We all same graduating class. Freshman year, Kenzie attended high school. I remember because I'd see her and Dom walk around. Sophomore year, a couple months in, was COVID. We ended up going online. All sophomore year, we were online. Junior year, it was half online, half in person, but you could opt and choose if you wanted to be all online. So Kenzie was all online junior year. So she did not attend the high school sophomore year nor junior year. Senior year, and I'd like to say this, let's get her attendance record of senior year because I had one class with her where I only saw her attend that class once the entire year, the one time the entire year. So like this whole fucking thing of them being in high school, it was a complete made up story. It was a made up narrative to like feed into that. And like I said, like go back and find that video that Kenzie sent to Rosie of her talking about doing her nails and talking about pearls, whatever that date is when they like is relatively, I would say give or take a few weeks is relatively when they started talking a lot. Anything before that, they were not friends. They did not talk. They weren't like really deeply involved with each other. So like anything before that, it's all bullshit. Oh, them being in school, them being the Regina George of the school, it's all bullshit. It's completely made up. Rosie in high school was like the complete opposite. She was more of an introvert. She was more of like, had her little friend group and went about her day. I was more of like the class clown. I was the one that was, always just being obnoxious and causing a scene and causing attention to myself like that. We were two completely different opposite people when it came to that in school. And so when we saw this Mean Girls doc and saw that, they're saying that Rosie, Nina, and Kenzie were walking in a line of 3 down the hallway, like pushing people out the way. I'm like, that's complete and utter bullshit. It's bullshit.
Hey, Landon, before you leave, can I give you a little bit of introspect?
What's up?
And I agree with you. I want to be really clear. I have not heard you speak at all until tonight. And I was against you and Rosie. I'm going to be quite honest. Like, I thought you guys were like, but just simply because I didn't even start doing lives until like last week. So I had no idea. I love Ivory Rose because this is the reason. Now I'm completely opposite. I see where you're coming from. So what I was trying to bring to the table is I got married at 16. I have been 30 years, mostly happily married. It takes work, but you and Rosie are still together, right?
Yeah, we've been together for 9 years coming on.
Exactly. So it's not all like love bubbles and all this stuff.
No,
Like,
no.
let's don't play that.
No.
That's my issue with a lot of it. I can promise you, I am 46 years old. I promise you, when it's good, it's good. And I have toxic traits. I'm not going to say I'm a toxic person, but I do have toxic traits. I think we all do. I have some trauma. I think Mackenzie also has some trauma. I think Dom clearly had some trauma. I think they both did. I think most of us do. Somebody gave me perspective earlier today that, like, I think everyone needs to be aware of. If something were to, like, if that exact thing were to happen to me today and my husband got unalived, they could look back at our text messages, and I'm going to tell you, because he goes quiet, and it seems like Dom was the same way.
That's exactly how I am.
Exactly. And I think
stopped
that's a
saying
man
shit.
thing.
Yep.
And as females, no, we're like, nope, 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 nope. You're gonna talk. You're gonna talk. You're gonna talk. Nope, nope. Because that's just how I am. So it would be. She literally enlightened me to that. I was like, Jesus, if somebody looked at just our text messages, it would be so easy to say that I did that on purpose.
Yep.
You
And
want to read mine.
I'd like to add something in there that's specific to Dom and Kenzie too, that builds on that. And another thing is like, we got to remember people who Dom is and like what he knows he's doing. Like in certain fields and certain subjects of fights, you know, like they fought about numerous of different things, thousands of different things, right? He knew when not to say too much. He knew that, you know, and he would catch himself before he did, you know. And I would say that, like, you can even go as far to say, like, him saying that she would blackmail him and stuff like that to the police. Like, he knew that. He was conscious that could be a problem and that could be a possibility if their relationship really went a certain way. Like, I would see her blackmailing him and making him be locked up for the rest of his life before she would take his life away in a fight.
Absolutely.
That's in all complete honest. So it's like, Dom knew that, though. You know, Dom knew that she had that power.
And my husband knows that about me. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. And whoever commented that crappy comment to me, you know, I'm not going to get this live shut down, but, you know, up yours.
I would ignore the comments.
Up yours, because no, marriage is work. Marriage is work. It's not all happy butterflies and fairy tales. I'm so sorry if that's what you think. It's not. It's not.
But
Squiggles wanted to say something before you go, Landon. Let me just let her talk 1 second. She's been sitting up here.
Yes, please. I've been begging.
I got you.
I'm just trying to say that I was sincerely, because of my own mental health growing up, my own abuse.
Sorry. So, Landon, I came up accidentally and I was listening to you for quite a while. And, you know, I had watched the documentary and I kept like kind of an open mind, but I think you've sort of like changed the way that I'm looking at this a lot. I do try and keep an open mind, especially when it comes to the media and things like that. I just want to ask, like, I'm a mum. My daughter is going to be eligible for a driver's license next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that I got sort of the essence, and it's only a documentary, and you would probably know better than me, that Mackenzie's parents, that they were a bit permissive, or because I just can't. I get that to a certain extent you can't rein your children in, or but I just felt like she had a lot of like freedom to do the things that she was doing, that I was like that as a teenager too.
Yeah.
Like, there could have been times where I could have been in accidents like that.
Yeah.
Like hanging out of cars and doing things like that and doing, you know what,
I
But I just got that
guess.
sort of feeling from her family. And like shit, at that age, like, their brains aren't even fully developed yet. I just felt like there was a lack of guidance, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I would, from what I've known on this family, from like the times I've been over there with her and Dom, and we've hung out, like the general feeling that I've gotten from her mom and dad is that like they knew she smoked weed, but like anything else on top of that, they didn't know. They didn't know that there was guns involved. They didn't know that he was really that much of a drug dealer. I mean, I don't think that she would just go and tell her parents, "Hey, my boyfriend is this big drug dealer, and he does this and he does that." I don't think that's how that whole conversation went down. I think that there was a lot of hidden information. I think there was probably questions asked towards her, like, "Well, how can he afford this? If I've never seen him go clock in at a job, you know?" And she's probably had to make up a little bullshit lie or whatnot to get herself out of it. But no, I don't think that they were fully aware of everything to the extent. And now, obviously, all this information that's came out and all this stuff, they are aware now and they talk about it now. But I just don't think that they go about. I don't think that they go about in the right manner of talking about it as if they didn't know that it was going on at the time. You know, I think that they maybe need to do a little bit better job of making it known that, hey, we didn't know all of this stuff was going on at the time. We knew that she was smoking weed and they were smoking weed, but anything other than that, they didn't know about. And even like with me, with my parents, like my mom even told me, she goes, "I suspected you smoked. I could smell it on you from time to time, but I was never going to confront you about it because that's like what teenagers do. That's what kids do. They're going to do it. And if you try to enforce them not to do it, they're going to go harder at it and try to do it more behind your back, you know?" And that's what a lot of parents' perspectives were here. But like, I'll say this, man, like I couldn't tell you how many different parents on the football team that we would go and drink with. They'd buy us booze and we'd get there and we'd get sloshed. And then we'd drive home at 5 a.m, you know, like, and they all knew it. Everyone was consciously aware of it. The parents were. Nobody cared. So, like, when it comes to Kenzie's parents, I think they weren't as bad as those other parents were. I think that now that the media is just so attentive on them and that they're just dissecting every little thing, they're getting painted in a really, really bad light. But no, I don't think that they were like misguiding parents or that they weren't, you know, enforcement on their daughter. Like I know multiple times when Rosie would tell me that Kenzie got grounded, you know, and stuff like that. So like stuff did happen. Like she did get grounded. She did get punished if they found out about certain things. But like even to this day, like there are certain situations that Kenzie's never told her parents the fullest extent on. And then we told them, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Like, we never heard that, you know? So I just think that like, it's just all painted in a real bad light in a way, you know? And I just truly don't think that they were some shit ass parents. You know, I think they were good parents. I think they cared about him. And another thing people got to realize too, is like, especially in that era of parenting, that's when it came, like, I feel like it started to switch a lot. Like I felt like some parents, and I'm not saying this is Mackenzie's case, but like, I feel like some parents kind of try to make it more of an effort to become a friend of their kids and not a parent. And not in a bad light though, not in a bad way. Like I know so many parents that would like still parent and punish their kid, but then still approach them and act with them and like when their friends are over as if they were a friend, you know, and that they're not going to sit there and enforce and be some Karen, you know, they're going to be a little bit more chilled, a little bit more laid back when friends are around. And then, you know, that kid might hear about it once those friends leave, you know, that's something that we just don't know, but that's something that's between them, you know? So I just think that, and that's another thing too, is that like we can't base their parenting skill just solely off of the text messages shown and, you know, and her dad coming out and saying that he knew she smoked weed. Okay. Like I know, like I said, my parents knew that. I know a bunch of other parents probably knew that. So it's like, it's not really a bad thing. And it might vary on areas that you're from, you know, or if the little local, yeah, or like the little local cities a little bit more religious than, you know, your big hometown city that's 15 minutes from the main city, you know, like, so there's so many different variables that vary in that aspect. And It's just the simple fact that it's being broadcasted for the whole entire world, and the whole entire world consists of so many different people with so many different beliefs on how to parent a kid that, like, eventually it just, people are just rolling with what the majority is saying in a way. And I'm not saying that, maybe there's some things that they could have punished her more on, or they could have enforced more on her. Yeah, I mean, you could say that with every fucking parent nowadays, It's just the simple fact that they got blasted in the media.
Do you think that the documentary painted them in a bad light?
Better than what I thought, honestly. I honestly thought that they were, like, when we filmed with them, I thought that they were going to be really focused on, like, the friend group and, like, that side of the story, because they were so big on, like, they're like, well, no one's ever heard from you guys. No, you guys didn't go into court. You guys didn't do this. Like, no one's ever heard your story, so we want your whole story to be heard. So we were like, that was the impression we were under, and we kind of thought that anything else around that was just going to be like filler information in a way. And I do think that there was a lot of information that they left out that would have helped her parents out, and things like how Dom had made a scrapbook that month of, like, their love life, and was sending her love letters and was putting pictures in there, and that was all in the documentary, but they cut it out. They completely cut it out, didn't put it in there. And it's like, but that shows how they weren't on the stage of breaking up that week or that day, that they were, that month, they were perfectly fine, And then, like, they also, like, I know they left out, like, and this is what makes me real mad in a way, is that, like, everyone just tries to put these text messages between Dom's mom and Kenzie about that incident on the highway. And, like, I'm sorry, nobody cares about those text messages. Like, yeah, they're relevant, but the ones that are the most relevant are the ones between her and Dom. Like, those are what matter. Those are, like, solely what matter as key evidence in this situation, in this case. And not only have the families, not only have the prosecution, but now also Netflix has refused to show those text messages to the world. And, like, people forget that this whole entire murder with intent, the piece of evidence that's hanging off of is this situation on the highway a week prior. That's what completely helped build their whole entire motive of intent and stuff. And it's completely factually wrong, like, based off of evidence. And they just refuse to talk about the evidence that proves that wrong. And that's where I really feel like they should have done their job and at least put those text messages in there, because that just gave the right to other people kind of beating around the bush between the text messages between Dom's mom and Kenzie, or they can make up lies, or she was just victim blaming, or she was just saving
people
face.
the ability to question the situation and not just listen to the one narrative and nothing else.
Yep. Because, like, I'm sorry, when you look at a text message, if I heard of some incident where someone was driving on a highway and their boyfriend tried grabbing the steering wheel in a way of a threatening manner and whatnot, and it comes out that there's eyewitnesses that say that it was the girlfriend, it was the girl that did it, but then there's text messages from the very man himself, admitting he was trying to harm himself, that if anybody would be harmed in that situation, it would have been him first and her second, and that he's sorry. Like, these are words that came off of his phone. So it's like, how are you going to tell me that's wrong? How are you going to tell me that's wrong and that's not true? It came from his cellular device. It came from the phone that's in his pocket. How are you telling me that's wrong? And that's what it really just sets me. That's what that main piece of evidence right there is really what decides my whole decision on this case, that people are lying. Is that literally that sole piece of evidence is all it took for me to just be like, okay, this is bullshit. This is a complete bullshit.
Thank you. I'm sorry for keeping you from your ice cream, Landon. Thank you for answering my questions, and I'm really sorry.
It's okay. The ice cream will always be there. I'll tell you, it'll always be there.
So funny. Landon, thank you so much for coming up here and talking with us and answering the questions. I really do appreciate the time that you gave us.
Yep, no problem. I mean, slowly but surely doing it. I don't want to cause too much of a flare. I'd rather reach out to smaller audiences and build that way than going full force in front of, thousands and thousands of people. And then potentially, like I said in the other lives, there's things going on behind the scenes that I feel as if are being used like bots, like things like that,
Oh
paid
yeah.
things like that, and that really won't help my case and Rosie's case in this sense. It's really just becoming, it's really, and this is what I've preached since day one. It's really like forming a personal attachment or a personal, conversation with people, not just going on a live or not going on a live, but just not recording a video behind a camera and, you edit it for hours, edit things out and whatnot. And that's your final product. Like, no, I'd rather just sit here and say what's going through my mind. Let's say what's going through my heart. Like I'd rather just say that than have to sit here and like constructively put together some answer. I feel like this is more effective, and I feel like it reaches people better in a way.
Yeah, I agree.
But
All right, well, I will let you get to your ice cream, Landon. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
yep, I wish all y'all a blessed night. Everyone,
You too.
go to
Have a
bed.
good one.
Don't let the bed bugs bite. I'll see you later.
I'm gonna go hit the ice cream too.
See ya.
Bye. All right, guys. Well, that was interesting. I appreciate him coming up here. And answering our questions. You got to respect that. Yeah, he was very nice, and he was willing to answer questions. You know what I mean? He was there. And again, there are some things that, we might not see the same way, but ultimately I think that everyone, almost everybody, right? And there's still people that may believe that she's absolutely guilty, and that's okay. And there's people that, may be on the fence. But anyway, my whole thing is just, if you're going to get the information, make sure you're open to getting information from every perspective. Don't just want her to be guilty and all of a sudden, like, that's all you're able to see is is that she's guilty. So if you're really looking into the crime and you really want to know what happened, you have to be open to changing your mind. I'm always open to changing my mind because I'm looking for the truth. I really want to know what could have really happened that night. And so that's just the advice I'm going to give you guys. When you guys look at a situation, you'll never get the situation from just one perspective. You have to go to the people that you may not like or the people that may be on an opposite perspective than you. You have to get the information from everywhere, and that's how you should really form your opinion. Don't want to not like somebody so bad that you want them guilty of such a horrible crime, right? Where she could spend life. I'm going to say this. I don't know. I haven't formed my full opinion on what I believe absolutely happened that night. You know what I mean? I'm still going through and asking the questions and looking at the different perspectives myself. What I can say that 100% is I do not believe, 100%, I do not believe that it was intentional murder. And again, I'm open to change my mind if I see evidence for that. But I don't see it right now. Sunshine, you can come up if you want to. Oh, why is it not showing? Hold on. Sunshine, hey.
Hi. Thanks for having me up. I just want to say I'm new to the true crime thing as well. I listen to Bubba, and I'm very glad that he's able to share his story. My perspective is just as a mom. I just want to speak on mental health, and that's where I've taken kind of akin to this story is I have a son as well, and I think that it's important to, in this, whether Mackenzie's guilty or, well, guilty of, the
intentional murder.
higher charge or the lesser. I think what the important message should be is relationships like this happen. And hopefully there's people out there somewhere that see this and choose wiser. And in saying that, I just want to say I respect everything Bubba had to say. I just am going to end by saying I think it's reckless to say that, we'd go out and get smashed and drive. I've lost people I know to drunk driving. And so I just want to make sure that that's not a like, oh, it was normal around here. Yeah, it's not normal. It should never be, oh, hey, like everybody's doing it. Too many people I know have lost their lives to it. So I just want to, that was my important thing when he started talking about that. I think it's reckless. And I think a lot of young kids do think it's okay. And there was a time when I, was not the best teenager myself, but I think it's important for us as adults, especially, to share that it's not okay. Like, we'll get you to where you need to be safely. And also relationships like this aren't okay. It's not normal. None of this is normal. Shouldn't be romanticized or blown up. This isn't cool. Like, this isn't
I absolutely agree. And I'm glad. I appreciate you coming up here and saying that. I think that there's so much going through my head. I didn't pick up on that, but I'm really glad you came up and said that, because that's absolutely the truth, though. Look what happens when you're reckless. We don't want to condone behaviors. We don't want these kids getting into these dangerous, toxic, mentally unhealthy relationships. And so we don't want to act like we're condoning them and it's like it's okay. Like, it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal.
Right. That's all. So thank you for having me up. And I just hope everybody stays healthy, stays safe. And, hopefully if anybody is in need, I think like venues like yourself are great, because it does open up conversations like this where hopefully somebody can, reach somebody that if they're needing help and stuff like that. So I appreciate what you're doing. And I hope everybody stays safe and stays healthy.
You too. Thank you, Sunshine.
Thanks.
Hey guys, I'm really glad she came up here, though, because I think that I was so, trying to think of questions and receiving the answers that I was looking for. She was absolutely right, though. We want to make sure that we're not condoning any of this behavior and acting like any of the behavior that led to the death of these two boys was okay and just acceptable and no big deal. Because again, I want to put out there, while I don't believe that she is guilty of intentional murder, she is guilty of being reckless and is the reason why two boys are deceased. You know what I mean? And that's not okay. And, if she made better decisions, this wouldn't have happened, or hope, this wouldn't have happened. And so, again, we don't want to sit there and act like we're condoning any of this, because absolutely not. We're not going to sit there and act like what she did was not a big deal, because it absolutely was a big deal. I don't believe that it was a life sentence, intentional murder thing, but it doesn't mean what she did wasn't a big deal and was any kind of acceptable or safe or just whatever. It wasn't a big deal. So I really do appreciate Sunshine coming up and saying that. And again, like, it went in one ear for me and out the other. But I'm really so glad that she said that, because I don't want anyone to think like that's not a big deal, because it is. It absolutely is a big deal. And again, these kids, they're out there, they're doing these things, and I hope there are teenagers watching this that are like, crap, I don't want to end up in jail or be the boys ended up dead. Make better decisions. And so yeah, I really do appreciate that. So guys, on that note, it is 11:20 p.m. for me, so I'm going to go and I'm going to get some sleep. But I do want to say I did see a lot of the comments in here asking me if I would upload this onto YouTube. So yes, I will. Ivory Rose Knows. It's at Ivory Rose Knows, guys. I'm Ivory Rose Knows on every platform. So I won't be able to upload this until tomorrow because it's pretty long. So tomorrow morning I will upload this on YouTube at Ivory Rose Knows. I want to say thank you to Landon again. Guys, I can't verify anything he says, right? But we appreciate him coming up, have the conversations, take from it what you will and what you need to. Nene is in here. Nene, I just saw you. Can you say hi in the chat? Guys, Nene, who was up here, the video I just did last, I reacted. There she is. I reacted to her video. She is, the way she explained the accident and that whole EDR thing, guys, go give her a follow and watch her videos, because Nene, you made it make sense for me. It was a little bit above my head, and so I really do appreciate you taking the time out to make that video, and thank you. And I did use your video to react to, so I want to make sure credit is where credit's due. And guys, thank you so much, and I will see you guys back here again tomorrow.